Countless disciples stared in unison at the few remaining red medicinal pills in Fang Chen's hand, their eyes blazing with fervent desire. This was a rare treasure, the finest item available at present save for Shuang. Ouyang Jun also turned his gaze to the medicinal pills, an expression of unconcealed excitement crossing his face. With these medicinal pills in hand, what need was there to fear that this black-backed blood-eyed ape would not obey? If any were left over, bringing them back to the Thousand Refinements sect would make capturing several more living black-backed blood-eyed apes a trivial matter. Fellow Taoist, what say you to me trading 3 mid-grade magical artifacts for this entire vial of medicinal pills? Fang Chen shook his head slightly and said, I wish to trade these items for silver-winged Thunderbird feathers, 1 pill per feather. The crowd of disciples exchanged stunned glances, one after another stating that they had no such items. Fang Chen was not particularly surprised and added, in that case, trading for some high-grade body-tempering materials is also acceptable. Demonic beasts within the territory of the 9 sects are growing ever more numerous and powerful. Strengthening one's physical body greatly increases the chances of survival. However, to advance further in the Iron Blood scripture, the required materials are extraordinarily precious, of a rarity no less than that of Phoenix Bloodstone. It is highly unlikely that any of the disciples present possess such an item. As expected, the moment they heard he was seeking high-grade body-tempering materials, their faces all fell with disappointment. It was Sun Chaozong who stroked his chin and spoke. High-grade body-tempering materials are so rare that not a single one can be easily found across all 9 sects. My master once possessed a Phoenix Bloodstone, but unfortunately it was stolen by a bastard. You will never obtain such an item through trade. I can offer you some excellent items for strengthening your physique. As he spoke, he pulled out a jade case with a mysterious air, inside which wriggled clusters of pitch-black insects. This is the secret cultivation technique of our Giant Sect. I am offering you a bargain. Trade me the pills in your hand for them. One glance made Fang Chen frown deeply. Blood corpse worms. No wonder every member of your Giant Sect has such abnormal physiques. It turns out that in addition to normal body tempering, you use these filthy insects. Take them away. Blood corpse worms are a species of insect that feed on the essence blood of corpses, often found among piles of the dead. No one expected the Giant Sect to take an unorthodox path and make use of these creatures. They would have the blood corpse worms devour the essence blood of the corpses of powerful martial artists, then consume the worms themselves, allowing a portion of that stolen essence blood convert into their own vital energy. This created a shortcut to rapidly strengthening their physique. But the cost was far from insignificant. Their physiques would become unnaturally bulky and overdeveloped. Fang Chen had long assumed that the Giant Sect's unsightly physiques were a side effect of their cultivation method. He had even once worried that cultivating the Iron Blood scripture would leave him looking the same way. Now it was clear that this had nothing to do with the cultivation technique itself. The very thought of eating worms that dwelled in piles of dead bodies made Fang Chen's stomach turn with revulsion. Most of the people present had heard of the blood corpse worms to some degree and immediately drew back in disgust, expressions of revulsion crossing their faces. Sun Chaozong's old face flushed red. These blood corpse worms had been specially bred by the Giant Sect and were vastly different from common wild blood corpse worms. He had assumed no one would recognize them, never expecting Fang Chen to spot their identity at a glance and announce it publicly, leaving him deeply embarrassed. He glared viciously at Fang Chen. If you don't want them, then don't take them. There's no need for your insults. His fists clenched so tight that his knuckles popped loudly as he prepared to start a fight right then and there. Halt! Ouyang Jun thundered in a deep voice. If you dare to fight here, do you mean to openly disrespect me? He was the host of this exchange conference. If people began brawling on the spot, what would become of his reputation? Naturally, Sun Chaozong did not dare to turn hostile against Ouyang Jun. Forcing down his rage, he glowered at Fang Chen and said, "We will settle this score later." The crowd returned to their seats. Ouyang Jun stared at the pills in Fang Chen's hand with a clear expression of reluctance, then said, "Since no one can offer a suitable trade for these pills, let us move on to the next participant." After Shuang and 3 steps drunk that came before, the items presented next were rather unremarkable, until a female disciple of the 10,000 Swords sect pulled out a bundle of transparent silk threads. She cupped her fists in salute and said, "Fellow senior brothers, while I was out on a mission, I accidentally fell into the cultivation cave of a senior who had long since passed away. I found this bundle of unknown silk threads at his waist. I've tested it. It is extraordinarily tough, unfathomably sharp, and can cut through metal and stone with ease. Does anyone here have an interest in it?" Her gaze first settled on Fang Chen, then moved in turn to Ouyang Jun and Sun Chaozong. Fang Chen glanced over it, and his pupils constricted sharply. Was this not the Tianshan Silk Thread that had snapped his black sword? It was the peak, grade divine treasure used as the core natal magical artifact by the Hehuan Sect Master, and the quantity here was more than double what the Hehuan Sect Master possessed. He scanned the surrounding crowd calmly and found that no one recognized the item. Even Ouyang Jun, who hailed from the artifact refining sect, wore a curious, assessing expression as he said, "This appears to be some kind of silk thread. It could be forged into some rather niche weapons. If you wish to sell it, I will trade you 2 mid-grade magical artifacts for it." This response clearly left the 10,000 Swords sect female disciple deeply disappointed. She had paid an enormous price to sneak into that deceased senior's cave, and had thought she had stumbled upon a great fortune, only to be met with this. However, she herself had never figured out the true use of the silk threads. Other than being unusually tough and sharp, it seemed to have no other special properties. As such, none doubted the assessment Ouyang Jun had given. Sun Chaozong spoke with little interest. "We who practice body cultivation arts rarely have use for external trinkets. At most, this silk can be used to tie up objects. If you truly wish to sell it, I can offer you 1,000 spirit stones." The female disciple of the 10,000 Swords sect's face fell instantly. If the 2 mighty figures present both said so, this bundle of silk was truly worthless. She hesitated for a moment, shook her head slightly, then turned to look at Fang Chen, a final glimmer of hope shining in her eyes. Fang Chen was quite straightforward, saying, "I have some interest in this item. What do you wish to exchange it for? If I have what you want, I may consider the trade." The female disciple of the 10,000 Swords sect lit up with joy at his words. She had actually held the highest hopes for Fang Chen. She spoke with a hint of pleading. "Senior brother, can I exchange this bundle of silk for a few of those medicinal pills?" That's it. Fang Chen almost choked on his own breath. He had already mentally prepared for her to make an exorbitant demand, only to find she only wanted a few pellets of 3-step drunk. If the sect master of the Hehuan sect learned of this, he would likely cough up blood in rage. Fang Chen hesitated. This bundle of silk was of staggering value. To exchange it for merely a few pellets of 3-step drunk would be taking far too much advantage of her ignorance. Fang Chen took out a jade vial and tossed it directly to her. "You can have the entire bottle." Everyone present was stunned. She had only asked for a few pellets of 3-step drunk. Why had he given her the entire bottle? The female disciple was also dumbfounded, asking, "Senior brother, you're giving all of this to me?" Fang Chen remained expressionless and took out 2 long fangs of a scarlet-scaled, malicious flood dragon. "These 2 are for you as well." Ouyang Jun's expression shifted drastically the moment he saw them. "Beast King fangs, these are unparalleled materials for forging high-grade magical artifacts, and there are 2 of them, friend. Are you not giving far too much?" Fang Chen made no attempt to hide the truth and said to the female disciple, "The silk in your hands is not low in value. I have no wish to take advantage of your ignorance. You get 1 full bottle of 3-step drunk and 2 fangs suitable for forging high-grade magical artifacts. If you are willing to trade, we shall proceed. If you wish to bring it back to your sect and hand it over to your elders, I will not force you." The crowd drew in a sharp breath. Only now did they realize that this silk no one had taken a fancy to was an extraordinarily valuable treasure, even worth more than Aishuang. 10,000 Swords sect female disciple was stunned for a long while before she came back to her senses. The item she had gone through so much hardship to retrieve was not some common trinket at all, but an exceptionally precious treasure. She was immediately overcome with joy. She spoke without a second of hesitation. I'll trade with you, senior brother." She swiftly handed the bundle of silk over to Fang Chen. This left Fang Chen at a loss for words. He asked, "Are you not going to think about it a little more?" The 10,000 Swords sect female disciple hurriedly replied, "I have already made up my mind." Fang Chen rubbed his nose and handed the items over to her with a strange expression on his face. The 10,000 Swords sect female disciple clutched the items she had received, immediately rose to her feet and bid her farewells, as though terrified that Fang Chen would go back on his word. I even told her the item was worth a fortune. Fang Chen was still a little bewildered. Ouyang Jun chuckled in amusement. What is so hard to understand? If she brought this bundle of silk back to her sect, at most she would get some praise and a reward worth no more than 1,000 spirit stones. It is even highly likely she would get nothing but praise. If she went looking for another seller, she may never find someone as knowledgeable, honest, and willing to offer such astounding items in trade as you, friend. Why would she hesitate for even a moment? This was the real situation, faced by countless disciples. Almost all sects defaulted to claiming all items obtained by their disciples on external missions as sect property, usually only giving them a paltry reward as compensation. Disciples with any wits would find ways to sell or trade items they obtained outside through various channels. When encountering an extremely wealthy cultivator like Fang Chen, the female disciple was overjoyed beyond measure. Why would she ever consider bringing the silk back to her sect? Fang Chen could not help but laugh and sigh at the same time. None of the elite disciples from the major sects were fools after all. Even so, he had still made an enormous profit. This bundle of heavenly mountain silk was worth more than 10 times the combined value of all the items he had given in exchange. Ouyang Jun spoke with hidden meaning. You have an unexpectedly vast collection of rare treasures, friend. Let us move on to the next participant, shall we? Junior brother Sun, it is your turn now.
Is it not?
As one of the 3 most prestigious figures present, the item Sun Chaozong would present drew immense attention from everyone. Sun Chaozong chuckled. It is just a small trinket. I hope everyone will find it interesting. He took out a jade, green orb the size of an infant's fist from his bosom, with faint gusts of swirling wind wrapping around it. Fang Chen recognized it at a single glance, his face shifting drastically. It was the Gale Orb, the very one he had given to Liu Qingxian. There had only ever been 2 Gale Orbs in existence. One he had given to Liu Qingxian, the other had been placed in the Heavenly Pavilion roaming auction house where it was purchased by Tai Bubai. Later, when Fang Chen killed Tai Bubai, he had accidentally shattered that Gale Orb into 2 pieces. That meant only 1 Gale Orb remained, and it was supposed to be in Liu Qingxian's possession. Why, then, was it now in Sun Chaozong's hands? Had Liu Qingxian met with some misfortune? At this moment, Liu Qingxian was supposed to be on the border of the Giant Sect, fighting against the beast horde. The danger she faced was unimaginable. Anxious Fang Chen stared at the Gale Pearl before him and spoke. This is the Gale Pearl. It last appeared at the Heavenly Secret Pavilion's itinerant auction held in Azure Cloud City, and was ultimately won by Tai Bubai, Grand Elder of the Giant Sect, in the bidding. No one would recognize the item at a glance, but the name Gale Pearl is known to all under heaven. Ouyang Jun was even more intrigued, and asked, It is said this is a naturally formed high-grade magical artifact.
May I take a look at it?
Sun Chaozong, who was eager for Ouyang Jun to give his appraisal of the item, immediately moved to hand it over to him. Fang Chen, however, said calmly, Ouyang Jun, it would be best for you not to touch this item. A look of confusion crossed Ouyang Jun's face. His eyes flickered slightly. If you have taken a fancy to this item, and absolutely must have it, brother, I shall yield it to you. Many of the elite disciples clicked their tongues secretly in shock. This man was unthinkably domineering. Whatever he set his eyes on, no one else was allowed to contend for it. Fang Chen shook his head slightly. You have misunderstood. I have no interest in this item whatsoever. I merely wished to warn you. Tai Bubai, who purchased the Gale Pearl, was killed on his journey back to the Giant Sect. The Grand Elder of the Giant Sect was assassinated by a mysterious, powerful cultivator. This incident had long sent massive shockwaves across the lands of the 9 sects. Ordinary disciples might still be unaware of it, but the elite disciples present had heard of it long ago, so they were not surprised when Fang Chen revealed this news. But the implication behind his words made the gazes they directed at Sun Chaozong shift entirely, and Ouyang Jun was also jolted awake to the truth in an instant. He cupped his hands in salute and said, Junior brother Sun, there are no issues with the origin of this Gale Pearl of yours, right? Since Tai Bubai was ambushed and killed, how could the Gale Pearl on his person have survived? It ought to have been seized by the assassin long ago. How could it end up in the hands of a disciple like you? Sun Chaozong grew anxious the moment he heard this. Glowering at Fang Chen, he snapped, You suspect I killed my master to steal his treasure. Fang Chen naturally knew this was not the case, but he feigned ignorance in order to uncover the true origin of this Gale Pearl. Fang Chen said indifferently, Is there perhaps a second Gale Pearl in the entire world? Everyone turned their gazes to Sun Chaozong in unison, their eyes brimming with suspicion. Sun Chaozong said hastily, Everyone, do not believe this man's nonsense. To tell you the truth, the Gale Pearl my master purchased was cleaved in 2 along with him by that villain, and was destroyed long ago. The one in my hand has a different origin. Fang Chen's eyes flickered slightly thoughtfully. He said flatly, I heard that only you were present when the incident occurred. Whether that Gale Pearl was shattered or not is solely your version of events. Hearing this, the crowd's great interest in the Gale Pearl turned into wariness and avoidance. Who would dare buy an item linked to the crime of killing one's master to seize their treasure? If the Giant Sect came after them later to forcibly take it back, it would bring unforeseen, catastrophic trouble. Sun Chaozong was filled with indignation. He had originally not wanted to reveal the origin of the Gale Pearl, but if he kept concealing it any longer, the accusation of killing his master for treasure would stick. Gnashing his teeth, he glowered fiercely at Fang Chen and said, "What if I tell you there really is a second Gale Pearl in this world?" He then turned to face the crowd and said, "Everyone, the Gale Pearl that belonged to my master has indeed been destroyed. This one belongs to Liu Qingxian, the daughter of the Azure Cloud sect master. Liu Qingxian is the #1 fairy of the 9 sects, so all the disciples present were naturally very familiar with her name." Ouyang Jun asked suspiciously, "If it is her belonging, why is it in your possession?" Sun Chaozong's gaze darted evasively as he said, "Naturally, she sold it to me." This was a gift Fang Chen had given to Liu Qingxian, a precious pearl she carried with her at all times as a keepsake. How would she ever sell it? He was lying. At this moment, Su Qiuning bit her red lips slightly and said, "Senior Sister Liu would never sell it to you." A few days ago, Senior Sister Liu sent a letter to the sect stating that the chief disciple of the Giant Sect had been robbing the belongings of elite disciples heading to the beast-tied front lines. "This Gale Pearl of yours must have been stolen." The many elite disciples present immediately saw the truth of the matter, as they had also heard rumors of this incident before. Several ill-behaved disciples of the Giant Sect resorted to coercion and plunder to seize the belongings of disciples from other sects. To complete their assigned missions, many of these foreign sect disciples swallowed their grievances and bore the humiliation in silence. Now, it is clear that not only are these rumors true, but the situation is far more severe than what was circulated. Even a disciple as renowned as Liu Qingxian had her precious personal possessions stolen, let alone ordinary disciples. Ouyang Jun frowned and said, "Junior brother Sun, I will never accept such a treasure. I also advise you to return it to junior sister Liu Qingxian. Do not harm the harmonious ties between our sects and do not trample on the earnest good will all sects have shown by coming to support the Giant Sect." The rest of the present disciples also frowned in displeasure. Disciples from other sects had come to assist the Giant Sect in fending off the beast tide, yet instead of feeling grateful, the Giant Sect took the opportunity to rob their belongings and even brazenly put the stolen goods up for sale at the exchange conference. This act was utterly shameless and despicable. Sun Chaozong never imagined that the origin of the treasure, which he had refused to reveal at all costs, would be exposed by this female disciple of the Azure Cloud sect, drawing the contempt of everyone present. Sun Chaozong, who had already been simmering with unbridled rage, immediately vented his fury on Su Qiuning. "You thieving harlot, how dare you slander me? Kneel down and slap that filthy mouth of yours until it is torn to shreds. Otherwise, I guarantee you will not even get the chance to beg for mercy." That bone-chilling threat sent tremors through the hearts of all present. Sun Chaozong may have had abhorrent morals, but no one dared to question his strength. Even with one arm severed, his towering, robust physique remained a terrifying existence that most cultivators of his age dared not confront. Ouyang Jun's expression sank heavily as he said, "Sun Chaozong, what is the meaning of this? Are you bullying a guest I invited right before my very eyes?" Sun Chaozong did not even turn his head and snorted coldly, "Ouyang Jun, I advise you to mind your own business. The affairs of the Giant Sect are none of your concern." Earlier, out of respect for the sanctity of the exchange conference, he had been willing to give Ouyang Jun face. But now that their faces were already torn, was there any need to hold back any more? Ouyang Jun was furious, his fists clenched tightly, yet he did not rashly make a move. It would be unwise to incur the enmity of the terrifyingly powerful Sun Chaozong for the sake of a female Azure Cloud sect disciple he had never met before. He still had to escort the black-backed blood-eyed ape to the spirit beast sect, so engaging in a brutal fight here was inappropriate. Thus he wore a dark expression as he weighed his options carefully. Su Qiuning's heart trembled violently. Being stared down by Sun Chaozong filled her with crippling unease, like a tiny frog locked in the predatory gaze of a venomous serpent. She cried out for help to Tang Tianlong, who was not far away. "Senior brother Tang." Tang Tianlong's scalp went numb with dread. He could not afford to offend Sun Chaozong, but if he stood by and watched a fellow sect sister being bullied, not only would the disciples of Azure Cloud sect look down on him, even disciples from other sects would hold him in utter contempt. He bit the bullet and walked up to Sun Chaozong, pleading for Su Qiuning. "Senior brother Sun, My junior sister is ignorant and immature. I beg you to be the bigger person and overlook her mistake.
Spare her life, I implore you.
Sun Chaozong lowered his eyes, glanced at him with unbridled disdain, and casually swung a slap towards him. Tang Tianlong was filled with utter shock. He never expected Sun Chaozong to be so unreasonable, attacking without the slightest warning. He hastily raised both arms to block in front of his chest. But Sun Chaozong possessed a peerlessly formidable physique, his strength equivalent to the first layer of the Golden Core realm. How could Tang Tianlong possibly block his strike? With a thunderous crash, Tang Tianlong was sent flying sideways, smashing through a wall before collapsing into a pile of rubble, coughing up blood non-stop. Sun Chaozong said coldly, "Do random cats and dogs also have the right to plead for mercy before me? Get out of my sight, or you will join this harlot in slapping your own mouth to shreds." Su Qiuning was horrified and hurried forward to help him up. But Tang Tianlong roughly shook off a hand, his face twisted with shame and anger. "Get lost. Why did you have to open your big mouth for no reason? Do you think you are so capable? Solve the trouble you caused yourself?" He had originally intended to show off in front of Su Qiuning, but instead he had ended up utterly humiliated in front of disciples from all sects. He did not dare to resent Sun Chaozong, so he vented all his pent-up rage on Su Qiuning. Su Qiuning pressed her red lips together, her face turning slightly pale. She had not wanted to come to the exchange conference at all. It was Tang Tianlong who had insisted she come. Now that she was being bullied, Tang Tianlong had abandoned her without a second thought. Just as she was at her most helpless, a faint, cold voice drifted across the entire venue. "Tang Tianlong, you are truly too rotten to even be plastered on a wall." The speaker was, of course, Fang Chen. He had never held any expectations for Tang Tianlong. Faced with a formidable foe like Sun Chaozong, even if Tang Tianlong dared not fight, or even abandoned Su Qiuning to flee alone, Fang Chen would not have blamed him. It was one thing that he dared not protect his fellow junior sister, but he had even turned around to turn on his own. The one who had humiliated him was Sun Chaozong, yet he directed all his resentment towards his own people. For this kind of person who is cowardly to outsiders and tyrannical to his own, Fang Chen had a two-word evaluation: trash. Utter, worthless trash. Tang Tianlong, who was already drowning in embarrassment, was suddenly berated like this by Fang Chen, and his face burned with even greater shame. He roared angrily, "What right do you have to say that to me?" Fang Chen did not bother to reply. Speaking even one more word to such trash felt like a waste of time to him. He simply stood up and casually kicked a broken brick at his feet towards Tang Tianlong. The latter's face changed drastically once more, and he hastily dodged, but the brick still struck his other arm squarely. Crack! The crisp sound of bone breaking echoed across the entire venue, triggering waves of shock among the onlookers. With a casual kick, he had broken Tang Tianlong's arm. Though Tang Tianlong had performed pathetically in front of Sun Chaozong, he was a genuine cultivator at the 8th layer of the Foundation establishment realm. Among the elite disciples present, fewer than 5 people could surpass his strength. Yet such a powerful cultivator looked utterly fragile and defenseless before this mysterious man. Who on earth was this fellow? Some people guessed that he must at least be at the level of a chief disciple of a great sect. Ouyang Jun felt a slight chill run down his spine and thought to himself, "This man is truly no ordinary figure. It seems my earlier wariness of him was entirely justified." Sun Chaozong narrowed his eyes slightly, having clearly discerned the implication behind Fang Chen's kick. This man's strength was exceptionally formidable. Su Qiuning was startled and hurried forward to check on Tang Tianlong, who was howling in agony. She quickly took out bone, mending ointment, preparing to treat his injuries. Fang Chen let out a cold sneer. "What is the point of tending to that useless trash? Come here." Su Qiuning's small hands trembled in fright, and she grew even more terrified of Fang Chen. After a moment of hesitation, she walked cautiously to stand before him, her small hands clutching tightly at the hem of her skirt, head bowed so low she did not dare meet his eyes, stammering, "As senior brother W, what instructions do you have for me?" Fang Chen reached out and patted her head, his voice softening. "You knew to defend your sect while away from home. You have done very well." So he was praising her. Su Qiuning's heart, which had been hanging high in her throat, finally settled heavily. She let out a small breath and said, "Senior brother is far too generous with his praise." To her even greater delight, Fang Chen continued, "Given how well you have performed, I will intervene on your behalf this once." Joy immediately bloomed across Su Qiuning's face. But then she grew anxious again. "W, will this bring you trouble? That man is Sun Chaozong, a renowned powerhouse at the Golden Core realm." Fang Chen said flatly, "He is not even worthy of being called trouble." Their conversation was perfectly clear in the deathly silence where even a falling pin could be heard. Everyone was stunned speechless. This man was unbelievably arrogant among all the prodigies of the 9 sects who dared to look down on Sun Chaozong like this. Ouyang Jun's gaze flickered, a look of surprise crossing his face. Just what level of strength did this man possess? He felt no small measure of relief that he had not made a move earlier. Otherwise, there would have been no opportunity for this man to step forward now. Rage colored Sun Chaozong's features, and he let out an angry laugh. Who do you think you are? Do you believe you are a golden roll powerhouse like Xia Keoj? How dare you spout such laughable, ridiculous nonsense? Fang Chen turned around, his gaze calm as he looked at him. Even through his mask, when Sun Chaozong met Fang Chen's eyes, a chill immediately ran down his spine. His expression shifted between uncertainty, for he could not fathom the depth of this man's strength at all. After weighing his options repeatedly, he glared fiercely at Su Qiuning, searching for an excuse to save face. You wretched woman, out of respect for senior brother Ouyang, I will let you off this time. If you dare repeat your offense, I will show you no mercy. With that, he turned to leave. The crowd was left speechless. He was clearly terrified of Fang Chen's unfathomable strength, and dared not fight easily, yet he used Ouyang Jun as a pretext. Earlier, when Ouyang Jun had tried to mediate, this man had been so domineering that he told Ouyang Jun to mind his own business. Now he claimed he was stopping out of respect for Ouyang Jun. He was truly shameless beyond measure. Su Qiuning was overjoyed, and could not help but glance sideways at Fang Chen in his long robes, deep reverence shining in her eyes. What had seemed like a heaven, collapsing disaster for her, had vanished into thin air with just a single sentence from this man. However, just as she thought the matter had been settled, Fang Chen said flatly, "Did I give you permission to leave?" Everyone jolted alert, staring at Fang Chen in shock. Sun Chaozong had already found an excuse to retreat. What more could he possibly want? What do you want? Sun Chaozong snarled furiously. Leaving without fighting today had already cost him enough face, yet this man was still not satisfied. Fang Chen had his hands clasped behind his back as he strode towards him, his tone cold and indifferent. Kneel and slap your own mouth until it is raw. Otherwise, I can guarantee you will not leave by restaurant unscathed. Ouyang Jun sucked in a sharp breath, clicking his tongue slightly. Those were the exact words Sun Chaozong had said to Su Qiuning earlier, now almost word for word repeated by Fang Chen. The only difference was that the target of his words was none other than the famous Sun Chaozong. Ouyang Jun now got a first-hand taste of just how domineering and ruthless this mysterious man was. Su Qiuning's eyelids also twitched violently when she heard that, and she said anxiously, repeatedly, "Senior brother, there is no need. This is already more than enough." She was already grateful beyond measure to have avoided a disaster. How could she dare hope for Sun Chaozong to apologize? Sun Chaozong laughed in rage, turning and slamming a foot on the ground so hard the entire restaurant shook. "You ungrateful wretch who refuses a toast only to drink a forfeit. I spared that wretched woman. Do you think I am afraid of you?" With the other party pushing him this far, no matter how much Sun Chaozong weighed the pros and cons, he could not back down now. Otherwise, his reputation as someone who bullied the weak and feared the strong would spread across the 9 sects, and would even drag the Giant Sect's reputation through the mud. It was better to fight. Fang Chen stepped towards him, saying, "So, will you kneel and slap your mouth raw, or shall I take action myself and make you pay a far heavier price?" Sun Chaozong laughed angrily. "Say that after you defeat me first." He roared, the veins all over his body bulging, his blocky muscles writhing rapidly. Powerful Kai and blood roiled within his body, making gurgling sounds like boiling water. Ouyang Jun's expression grew grave, and he quickly retreated to the corner, shock on his face. The Giant Sect's physical physique is indeed shockingly powerful. If I were to fight him, unless I used a high-grade magical artifact, I will most certainly lose. The elite disciples could feel the terrifying power of Sun Chaozong's physique, and none dared remain seated where they were. They all scrambled to retreat to the edges of the room. Su Qiuning was frantic and spoke urgently. "Senior brother, please stop fighting." Sun Chaozong's terrifying physique sent chills down her spine even from afar. Though the mysterious man before her was wrapped in a loose, wide robe, he looked painfully frail next to Sun Chaozong. How could he possibly be a match for the latter? "You want to stop now? It's too late." Sun Chaozong sneered and launched his attack first. He stamped his feet against the ground, shooting forth like a loosed arrow with a sharp whoosh. The planked floor was scoured by the friction of his soles, leaving a scorched mark that curled with wispy green smoke, a testament to the sheer speed of his launch. The crowd only caught a glimpse of a blurring shadow before Sun Chaozong's massive frame appeared right in front of Fang Chen. His enormous fist, carrying an overwhelming, crushing momentum, smashed straight toward Fang Chen's skull. Die! Sun Chaozong roared. Fang Chen's expression remained impassive. Only then did he lower his hands that had been clasped behind his back and spoke coolly, "You haven't improved one bit." Back when he had ambushed and killed Tai Bubai, this very Sun Chaozong had caused him enormous trouble. He had only managed to slay Tai Bubai at the cost of taking a blow to his back, and would have suffered grievous injury if he hadn't been wearing a high-grade protective armor. Now was the time to settle this old debt. Fang Chen did not even activate his Phoenix Blood precious physique, only launching a physical attack paired with the Nine Heavens battle stance. Open the heavens, as Fang Chen let out a low shout, the seemingly slender man erupted with unparalleled strength. His fist left a trail of afterimages as it collided with that head-sized giant fist, letting out a teeth-aching dull thud that made every onlooker feel as if the blow had landed on their own bodies. So painful just to hear. As everyone had predicted, Fang Chen's fist and entire arm would shatter, after all, next to Sun Chaozong's fist. His looked as tiny as an infant's. Su Qianing's heart was in her throat. She didn't even dare to breathe, her hands clasped tightly to her chest in a prayer pose, begging that Fang Chen would not be hurt, or she would feel unbearably guilty. Tang Tianlong gritted his teeth, his eyes blazing with anticipation. He longed to see Fang Chen defeated like a mangy dog, so he could stomp on his head and repay the humiliation he had suffered earlier. However, the stalemate between the two fists lasted barely an instant, before a scene that made every onlooker cry out in shock unfolded. Sun Chaozong, who was as large as a small hill, turned bright red in the face, beads of sweat the size of soybeans bursting out across his skin at an unnatural rate. Finally, after a mere 3 breaths of deadlock, he could no longer withstand the terrifying force of Fang Chen's punch, and was sent flying backward repeatedly. Each step he took made the floor boom loudly, the entire second floor shaking as if it were about to collapse. He only stopped when he slammed into the wall, leaving a half-foot-deep human-shaped dent in its surface. His face twisted with horror, he tried to lift his arm, only to find that everything from his fist to his shoulder was completely limp. The bones in his arm had been utterly shattered during that 3-breath clash. Who are you?" Sun Chaozong asked in terror. As a body-refining genius from the Giant Sect, he had been completely crushed in physical combat by someone of the same age. He could have accepted it if it were one of the 2 heavenly prides from his own sect, but the man before him was clearly not a body refiner. Where did this monstrous physical strength come from? Ouyang Jun's pupils shrank to the size of pinpricks, his gaze toward Fang Chen shifting from wariness to outright reverence. He had guessed Fang Chen was powerful, but he never imagined his strength was this terrifying. Without even using spiritual power, relying purely on physical combat, he had easily crushed the renowned body-refining heavenly pride. Su Qianing also gaped in shock. He cultivates both law and body. In terms of cultivation base, he easily defeated Tang Tianlong, with strength no less than the first layer of golden core. Realm, in physical combat, he is also monstrously powerful. Which of the 9 sects has such a freakish disciple? The elite disciples from various sects were also stunned speechless. Wait a minute, is he really a disciple? Do we have such a monstrous figure among the 9 sects? Could he be some sect elder, disguised as a disciple? Fang Chen paid no mind to their chatter, and stepped coldly towards Sun Chaozong. Seeing this, Sun Chaozong's eyelids twitched wildly. He knew full well he had run into a true powerhouse, and dared not act as arrogantly as he had before. He shouted hastily, "Senior brother, this junior was blind and failed to recognize your lofty status earlier. Please forgive my rudeness." One had to admit, some elders and disciples of the Giant Sect had cultivated the art of shamelessness to absolute perfection. The moment they saw the tide turn, they immediately surrendered completely. Ordinary people might have taken the opportunity to back off, but Fang Chen had no patience for this trick. If he had been the one defeated, would Sun Chaozong have spared him? Obviously not. Sorry, I have no intention of forgiving you. As soon as the words left his mouth, Fang Chen lunged forward. Sun Chaozong was both shocked and furious, parrying as he roared. This was just a friendly spar. Is there any need to be so relentless? Anyone with a shred of pride would have backed off after their opponent begged so humbly. This trick had never failed him before. Why was this mysterious man not playing by the rules? But the bones in his only remaining intact arm were already shattered, so how could he fend off the attack? He turned and kicked a huge hole in the wall, then tried to leap out and escape. How could Fang Chen, who was only 30 feet away, let him get away? He immediately activated his movement technique, caught up in a single step, grabbed the muscle at his waist, lifted him up, and slammed him hard into the ground. With a deafening crash, the floor was smashed into a huge dent, almost pierced through entirely. Sun Chaozong spat out a cloud of blood mist. Looking at the mysterious man standing right before him, Sun Chaozong was finally consumed by fear. He couldn't even escape in front of this man. He begged hurriedly, "Sir, I was wrong. I should never have laid a hand on the woman next to you. I deserve to die. Please spare my life. I'll give you everything I have, just please." With a dull thud, Fang Chen stomped his foot on his chest. Amid the muffled sound, Sun Chaozong's chest caved in slightly. He spat out another large mouthful of blood. His eyes rolled back, and he fainted on the spot. The crowd swallowed silently, their reverence for Fang Chen rising exponentially. This man was not only terrifyingly strong, but also ruthless and merciless. Even when Sun Chaozong begged like that, he showed no mercy at all. They had no way of knowing that Fang Chen had an old grudge against this man. As the entire venue fell deathly silent, Fang Chen drew his black sword, sliced open Sun Chaozong's clothes, and found the Gale Pearl, a crystal card with a quota of 100,000 spirit stones, as well as various cultivation resources. He didn't even glance at the other items, only taking the crystal card and the Gale Pearl. He stuffed the crystal card into his bosom casually, then studied the Gale Pearl for a moment, and couldn't help worrying about Liu Qingxian's situation. With her unyielding, stubborn temperament, how could she let someone steal her Gale Pearl and let it go? She would definitely clash with the Giant Sect disciples. Would she suffer a loss all alone out there? He gazed toward the northeast, his face clouded with worry, as senior brother. Su Qiuning's timid voice interrupted Fang Chen's thoughts. Fang Chen came back to his senses, looking at Su Qiuning, who was twisting her small hands nervously, her little face full of awe, her cherry lips opening and closing repeatedly, and asked confusedly, "You have something to say?" Su Qiuning nodded, pointed carefully at the Gale Pearl in Fang Chen's hand. This belongs to our eldest senior sister. See, could you please return it to her?" Fang Chen smiled faintly, but stuffed it directly into his bosom, right in front of her. Fang Chen thought to himself, "Come with me. It's time to find a place to reveal my identity to her." Su Qiuning panicked immediately, her feet rooted to the ground as if nailed there. This mysterious man had helped her twice, and the last time had solved her huge trouble. But why would a stranger be so nice to you? She involuntarily tightened her collar, all kinds of unpleasant scenarios flashing through her mind. She bit her red lip tightly, not daring to follow him. Fang Chen walked to the stairwell, saw she still hadn't followed, and frowned. "Do you need me to say it again?" Su Qiuning trembled in fear, casting a pleading look toward Ouyang Jun and the other elite disciples, but no one dared to step forward. Are you kidding? Sun Chaozong was still lying there, life or death unknown. Who would dare to anger this mysterious, ruthless man? Su Qiuning's heart turned cold. Seeing Fang Chen staring at her, she was so helpless she almost cried, and slowly dragged her feet step by step toward Fang Chen. Fang Chen was speechless. "Am I going to eat you or something?" He grabbed her and dragged her out of the Tabai restaurant amid her shocked cries. The two arrived at a deserted, dark alley not far away. Su Qiuning thought something terrible was going to happen, struggling desperately as she cried, senior brother, please let me go. I'll have my master compensate you. I really can't." "Agree to your demands, please." The tears she had been holding back for so long rolled down her face helplessly. Only then did Fang Chen realize what was going through Su Qiuning's mind. He was half amused, half annoyed. "Wipe those tears dry, or I'll go find Elder Wen and have her give you to me as a personal maid." Su Qiuning struggled feebly a few times before she suddenly froze. Her glistening eyes locked onto Fang Chen as she asked in a wavering, uncertain tone, "Why, you know my master." Fang Chen smiled faintly and slowly removed his mask, his features coming into clear view in Su Qiuning's eyes. Fang Junior brother. Su Qiuning was stunned on the spot. She wiped the teardrops from her lashes, convinced she was seeing wrong, yet the man before her was undeniably Fang Chen. "That can't be. How can you be my Fang Junior brother?" Su Qiuning doubted she was dreaming, shaking her head repeatedly. Though Fang Chen was talented, he could never be as terrifyingly powerful as the man before her. This could not possibly be her junior brother. Fang Chen chuckled. "If you think you're dreaming, I can pinch you awake." As he spoke, he gave her arm a light twist. Su Qiuning gasped sharply from the pain, instantly jolting awake. She covered her red lips, eyes wide with unmasked disbelief. "Fang Junior brother, how can it be you?" She still could not reconcile the ruthless, overwhelming figure before her with the Fang Chen she knew. Fang Chen rolled his eyes at her. "Who else would be kind enough to help you shake off that pestering Tang Tianlong, pick out a suitable dagger for you, and eliminate all threats against you?" At those words, realization dawned on Su Qiuning like a bolt of lightning. So that's how it is. She was too embarrassed to say more, her cheeks flushing bright red. She had been so foolish as to assume someone was lusting after her beauty. Su Qining was so mortified she wanted to vanish into the ground, covering her face as she cried, "Stop talking, stop, this is so humiliating." Fang Chen roared with laughter at her flustered state, suddenly regretting taking off his mask. He should have teased her a little longer. Su Qining's face burned hotter under his laughter, and she snapped in shy annoyance. "Stop laughing. It's all your fault for bringing me to this alley. If you hadn't done that, how would I have gotten such a ridiculous idea?" Fang Chen could not help but grin. "I'm currently being hunted down by that bitch, the Giant Sect master. I dare not show my face in public, or I'll be captured on the spot." Su Qining was taken aback. "You're being hunted by the Giant Sect master? Why, did you offend her somehow, junior brother? That's impossible. One of you is the Giant Sect master, and the other is a low-ranking disciple of Giant Sect. The two of you should have no connection whatsoever. How could things escalate to you being wanted?" Fang Chen's face darkened at the mention of the incident. "It's nothing much. I just defeated her in a spar. Who would have thought that woman was such a sore loser? She tried to force me to stay in the Giant Sect. When I escaped, she put a bounty on my head. What a horrid temper." The more he thought about it, the angrier he got. Su Qining, on the other hand, grew more and more stunned with every word he spoke. "It's nothing much. I just defeated her in a spar. What kind of heaven, defying statement was that?" It took her a long while to process what she had just heard. She could not help but worry for Fang Chen. "So you're planning to flee Hehuan City?" Fang Chen nodded. "I was about to leave, but I ran into you being harassed by Tang Tianlong, so I decided to take care of him first before going." So Fang Chen had come to the exchange conference for her sake, even while he was a wanted man. Mist once again clouded Su Qining's eyes, this time from overwhelming gratitude. "Fang, junior brother." Su Qining swallowed hard, her gaze fixed on his handsome face as her heart skipped a beat. In that moment, she finally understood why a proud woman like Liu Qingxian would fall for Fang Chen, even willing to be his lesser consort. Fang Chen glanced out of the corner of his eye, suddenly pressed down on her shoulder to make her crouch, and said, "Hide well." Su Qining was confused and asked, "What's wrong?" Following Fang Chen's gaze, Su Qining saw the elite disciples from the exchange conference leaving one after another. It seemed the conference had come to an end. Fang Chen teased, "Interested in robbing someone with me?" Su Qining was bewildered. "Who are you going to rob, junior brother?" Fang Chen smiled faintly, a playful glint in his eyes. "Whoever among them is the richest, that's who I'm robbing." "Richest?" A figure immediately popped into Su Qining's mind, and she gasped. "Ah, you want to rob Ouyang Jun? That's not a good idea. Ouyang Jun is the young sect master of the Thousand Forging Sect. His status is incredibly lofty. Robbing him would bring enormous trouble. If you're recognized, it could even damage the relationship between our two sects." Fang Chen teased her further. "I'm not just robbing him, I'm bringing you along too." Su Qining's face instantly fell. Robbing anyone was already against her principles, let alone robbing Ouyang Jun. Just then, a line of carriages slowly departed, belonging to Ouyang Jun's convoy. Fang Chen grabbed Su Qining's wrist, and immediately followed after them quietly. The group left the city gates, traveling along a wide official road. It was already the middle of the latter half of the night, the moon bright and stars sparse, tree shadows dancing across the ground. Faint cries of unknown birds and beasts drifted from the distance, piercing the eerie silence of the night. Suddenly, Ouyang Jun, inside the carriage, sensed something amiss. He raised an eyebrow and called out in a deep voice, "On guard." The Thousand Forging Sect disciples immediately fanned out around the convoy, while he stepped out of the carriage and scanned his surroundings. He called out loudly, "Friend, you've been following us for quite some time. Do you have something you wish to say?" With a soft whoosh, the masked Fang Chen leaped out of the forest beside the official road, with Su Qining following closely behind him, shuffling nervously. She had covered her face with a veil and stammered, robbery." Ouyang Jun touched his nose, amused. "Su Qining, you're robbing me." Even with the veil covering her face, her figure, clothes, and voice were barely disguised. Was this some kind of joke? He turned to look at Fang Chen, and a look of realization crossed his face. He said teasingly, "You are truly impressive, friend. In such a short amount of time, you've tamed junior sister Su so thoroughly that she follows your every command like an obedient wife. I am truly impressed." When he had left earlier, Su Qining had been extremely resistant to him. In barely any time at all, she was even willing to rob people alongside him. A vein throbbed on Fang Chen's forehead. Asterisk, "You're the one who's short, your entire family is short. Asterisk." He said with a deadpan expression, "Miss Su was just joking with you all. I'm here to complete an unfinished transaction." He raised his hand and tossed the claw of the silver-winged Thunderbird he had been carrying on his shoulder onto the ground. Su Qining was stunned. Asterisk here for a transaction. Then why did you lie to me and say we were robbing someone? Asterisk realizing she had been pranked by Fang Chen, Su Qiuning was so furious she wanted to pounce on him and take a bite.
That wretched man! All the embarrassment she could have accumulated in years had been used up in just a few minutes. However, she was quickly drawn to the mysterious object wrapped in cloth. Ouyang Jun also looked at it curiously, saying with a playful smirk, "Could this be some shady item that requires you to meet me in private to make the exchange?"
Fang Chen said calmly, "Take a look and you'll find out." Ouyang Jun gave 1,000 forging sect disciple a meaningful look.
The disciple took a low-grade magical artifact longsword and carefully sliced open the cloth. By accident, he applied too much force, and the blade struck the curved part of the claw.
With a sharp clang, the longsword snapped clean in two.
Ouyang Jun was taken aback. He stared intently at the mostly exposed sharp claw and recognized it instantly as the talon of a silver-winged Thunderbird.
He looked at Fang Chen in disbelief. "Where did you obtain this object?" Fang Chen crossed his arms over his chest and said, "It comes from a legitimate source, rest assured." Ouyang Jun's gaze flickered as he stared at Fang Chen.
He strongly suspected that Fang Chen had severed this talon himself, for the cut edge was extremely fresh, not like it had been stored for a long time.
This was a silverwing Thunderbird, after all. Judging by the size of the claw, it was definitely a fully grown specimen, with strength equivalent to the 5th layer of the Golden Core realm. How had Fang Chen managed to cut off its talon?
Though he was desperate to confirm if Fang Chen had been the one to sever the talon, since Fang Chen had not explicitly stated so, it would be improper for him to pry further.
He pondered for a moment and said, "You wish to trade for Eyes Frost, right? This single talon is not quite enough. My requirement was the bone of a late-stage Golden Core Realm Beast King. The talon
before me only comes from a mid-stage Golden Core Realm Beast King." Fang Chen was not particularly surprised. While the value of this talon was no less than that of a late-stage Beast King's bone, it was indeed not what Ouyang Jun was seeking after all.
Fang Chen asked, "What else do you want?" Hearing this, Ouyang Jun glanced sidelong at the still unconscious black-backed blood-eyed ape and said expectantly, "I want another 10 portions of 3-step drunkenness. Add those to this talon."
"And we have a deal." Fang Chen had long known this was what he wanted. He replied without hesitation, "I don't have a single one left."
Hearing this, Ouyang Jun was greatly disappointed, but Fang Chen's next words left him stunned.
"However, I can refine it right now. Refine it right now." Ouyang Jun froze for a moment, then immediately realized a shocking truth, and an expression of utter astonishment spread across his face.
"Why, you are also a soul master. That pill was no ordinary medicine. It brimmed with spiritual light, clearly a high-grade spiritual elixir."
That Fang Chen could refine it on the spot meant he was a soul master. How was this possible?
In the 9-sect continent, every soul master was worshipped like an ancestor in their respective sects, and they were generally all of advanced age. How could there be a soul master of the same age as him? Fang Chen did not elaborate further, saying, "Guard the perimeter. Do not let anyone disturb me. Miss Su, help me sort out the materials."
He took out a large pile of materials for 3-step drunkenness. He had leftover supplies from his last refinement, so he might as well turn all of them into 3-step drunkenness this time.
Su Qiuning was also stunned for a moment. She only knew that Fang Chen was capable of medicine concocting, but medicine concocting and pill refining were two entirely different fields. Anyone with hands could practice medicine concocting. The only difference lay in experience and skill, which determined the quality of the final product. But pill refining was the exclusive domain of soul masters. Fang Chen was a soul master too. That couldn't be real, could it? Yet Fang Chen's next actions left Su Qiuning completely and utterly shocked. After she helped him sort out the materials quickly, Fang Chen used his immense soul power to directly purify the materials, stripping away wisp after wisp of impurities from the medicinal herbs.
This was a unique ability exclusive to soul masters, leaving everyone present dumbstruck. "Young master, this man is truly a soul master, a disciple of the 1,000 Refinements sect," exclaimed excitedly. Soul masters were legendary existences out of reach for the vast majority of people.
It was already a stroke of luck to see one in person, let alone observe them refining pills, which was an incredibly rare, unforgettable experience for a lifetime. Ouyang Jun was also somewhat excited, saying, "He is not just a soul master, but a high-grade one at that."
He had seen the first-rank soul master of the 1,000 Refinements sect refine pills before, but that soul master's purification technique and level of proficiency were far inferior to Fang Chen's. In his eyes, that soul master of his sect was only fit to be Fang Chen's apprentice. That was indeed the case. Under Fang Chen's deft, familiar operation before long, a pile of around 100 red pills appeared in his palm. He separated 20 of them, placed them into a jade vial, and tossed it to Ouyang Jun, saying, "I'm giving you 10 extra. You and your people will forget everything you saw today." Ouyang Jun was overjoyed. The extra 10 pills could be brought back to the 1,000 refinements, sect to capture more backed blood-eyed apes. He thanked him repeatedly. "Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir." He then turned to the surrounding disciples and commanded with majesty, "Today you have had the great fortune to witness this personally refined pills, a blessing you only receive once in 3 lifetimes. Keep this memory to yourselves, and do not spread a word of it to outsiders, or I will expel all of you from the sect." The 1,000 refinements sect disciples all bowed their heads in agreement. Only then was Ouyang Jun satisfied. He personally fetched the wooden casket containing Eyes Frost, and handed it to Fang Chen with both hands, saying, "Our 1,000 refinements sect still has many excellent magical artifacts. You are welcome to visit us at any time." Fang Chen took the wooden casket and said, "I will go if the opportunity arises. You may leave now." Ouyang Jun had originally wanted to chat a little more with Fang Chen to build rapport, but since the other party had sent him off, he could only leave full of regret, holding the talon properly and leading his entourage away in a grand procession. He felt a twinge of remorse. He had failed to forge a closer relationship with Fang Chen during the exchange conference. Missing out on such a powerful soul master was such a pity. At the same time, Fang Chen separated 30 pills of 3-step drunkenness and handed them to Su Qiuning, saying, "This is your hush money." Su Qiuning still stood rooted to the spot in a daze, unable to recover from the shock that Fang Chen was a soul master. It was only when Fang Chen pried open her palm and stuffed the 3-step drunkenness inside that she snapped back to reality. She gasped sharply and said, "Junior brother Fang, why? You are actually a soul master. Does the sect master know?" Fang Chen replied, "As of now, only you know. Keep this secret for me." "Only I know." Su Qiuning was stunned, and the smile that tugged at the corner of her lips could not be suppressed no matter how hard she tried. This was a secret that only she knew. Not even Liu Qingxian was aware of it. "Then aren't you afraid I'll let it slip?" Su Qiuning teased. Fang Chen stroked his chin and said, "Then aren't you afraid that on a dark, windy night, someone will sneak into your room, do this to you first, then that, and finally this again?" Su Qiuning's face flushed bright red upon hearing this. She stamped her foot and said coquettishly, "Junior brother Fang, how have you become so naughty?" Fang Chen laughed loudly, cupped his fists in salute, and said, "Then senior sister had better stay far away from me. Farewell." Su Qiuning was stunned. "You are leaving?" Fang Chen nodded and said, "If I don't leave now, the Joyous Harmony sect will find me. We will meet again when the opportunity arises." Su Qiuning's heart immediately ached. They had just met, and now they had to part again. She held the 3-step drunkenness that Fang Chen had given her, feeling extremely bitter in her heart, but she could not bring herself to ask him to stay. Fang Chen truly could not remain in the Joyous Harmony sect's territory any longer, and she had not completed her mission, so she could not leave with Fang Chen. She could only force down her sadness and ask, "Are you returning to the Azure Cloud sect?" Fang Chen thought for a moment and said, "I want to pay a visit to the Giant Sect first." Su Qiuning immediately understood that Fang Chen was worried about Liu Qingxian, which made her feel even more bitter, but she still reminded him gently, "That is a good idea. Senior brother Tang said that they have already detected a beast tide approaching from the west. I believe the western region of the Joyous Harmony sect will soon see battle. If you head east as soon as possible, you will be much safer." Fang Chen's expression grew solemn. Was the situation already so grave? Thinking of how that Silverway in Thunderbird had dared to brazenly scout within the Joyous Harmony sect's borders, Fang Chen was convinced that the intelligence Tang Tianlong had gathered was correct. "Thank you for the warning, senior sister Su. I will take my leave now." He did not want to stay a moment longer. He was currently at the West City Gate. Ahead lay the western battlefield where battle was most likely to break out, so he could only circle around from outside the city to head east. But just as he was about to leave, a sharp, shrill avian cry cut through the sky. At the edge of the heavens, a ball of silvery, white thunderbolts was speeding towards Joyous Harmony City at extreme velocity. When it was nearly upon the city, it suddenly changed direction and fled northwards. On the ground behind it, the figure of a green-robed elder sped after it in pursuit, his hands clasped behind his back. What made Fang Chen's pupils constrict violently was that this green-robed elder flicked a finger, and a cyan rainbow shot into the sky from behind him, piercing straight through that mass of thunder clouds. Accompanied by a miserable shriek, the thundercloud plummeted straight down. Through the faint, flickering gaps, Fang Chen could clearly make out its form, and he could not help but be shocked. It was the Silverwing Thunderbird. He recalled that his cultivation method required the Silverwing Thunderbird, and by sheer coincidence, that very Thunderbird was plummeting straight toward a spot not far away.
He did not dare hesitate any longer. Turning to junior sister Sue, he said, "Return to the city at once. It is not safe outside."
He immediately activated his movement technique, racing at full speed toward the site where the Silverwing Thunderbird was falling. A short while later, he came to a halt before a thicket of shrubs, gazing intently at the scorched earth ahead, which had been seared black by the Silverwing Thunderbird's lightning strikes.
The Silverwing Thunderbird lay writhing on the ground, shrieking in agony, a gory, glaring wound on its abdomen clearly visible.
Fang Chen was secretly astonished. What sort of transcendent being was that elder? With a casual wave of his hand, he had controlled his sword from afar to injure the Silverwing Thunderbird. It was the first time he had ever seen such awe-inspiring swordsmanship, and he could not help but form a few conjectures regarding the elder's identity.
Moments later, the green-robed elder arrived.
Only then did Fang Chen notice that this elder bore the bearing of an otherworldly immortal. He wore a jade hair crown, his long hair flowed freely, 3 strands of beard drifted across his chest. His features were sharp and extraordinary, and faint, wispy, clear kai coiled around his body. At the sight of the clear kai, Fang Chen was shocked. He had once heard that cultivators who could condense clear kai that did not disperse had already reached the perfection stage of the golden core realm, and were only a single step away from breaking through to the nascent soul realm. The elder before him was undoubtedly a peak-level existence across the entire 9 Sects continent. Combined with his unfathomable, godlike sword control technique, his identity was now obvious. He was the Grand Elder of Myriad Sword Sect. He had actually encountered such a formidable figure by pure chance. He dared not even draw a heavy breath, watching silently as the elder approached the Silverwing Thunderbird. Suddenly he caught a flash of viciousness in the Thunderbird's eyes. He recalled how this bird had once pretended to retreat before laying an ambush for them, and his face instantly paled. He leapt out from his hiding place, shouting a timely warning, "Do not approach. Beware of a trap." At that moment, the green-robed elder was a mere 20 zhang away from the Silverwing Thunderbird. Hearing the sudden warning, he was first startled, then immediately realized the danger. He retreated without hesitation, and with a flick of 2 fingers, the teal rainbow sword that had pierced the Thunderbird's body abruptly shot out, stabbing straight toward the Thunderbird's head. The Silverwing Thunderbird glared at Fang Chen furiously. It had been on the verge of luring the green-robed elder into its trap, only for this random boy, who appeared out of nowhere, to ruin its plan. It watched as the elder was about to escape the range of its ambush. It immediately spread its wings, and a great mass of feathers tore free from its body, hurtling toward the green-robed elder like a torrential rainstorm. The first feather to come into contact with the elder exploded instantly, unleashing a vast burst of lightning arcs that incinerated the elder's sleeve to ash. The green-robed elder's expression darkened, and he snorted coldly, "Vile beast." A tremor ran through his body, and the clear kai surrounding him condensed into countless palm-sized flying swords. With a wave of his finger, these clear kai swords shot forth, colliding with the oncoming feathers. Dense, thunderous explosions rang out across the entire area, all detonating far away from the elder, not a single one touching him. Seeing its trump card fail, the Silverwing Thunderbird was filled with rage and terror. It flapped its wings fiercely, soaring upward to make its escape. But before fleeing, it cast a venomous glare at Fang Chen, spread its wings, and dove downward like a shooting star, its razor-sharp talons reaching out to tear Fang Chen apart. The green-robed elder was still dealing with the last of the attacking feathers, and by the time he noticed the Thunderbird's movement, it was already too late. He only had time to shout, "Vile beast, do not harm another." He sent his teal rainbow sword flying after it, but it was far too late. The Silverwing Thunderbird was already right in front of Fang Chen. Only then did Fang Chen notice that the Silverwing Thunderbird before him had both talons intact. It was not the one he had encountered on the snowy mountain. His expression remained calm as he gripped the purple sword on his back, narrowed his eyes, and said, "If your companion were here, it would certainly warn you not to provoke me." This Silverwing Thunderbird was far more cautious than the previous one. Before the purple sword was even unsheathed, it sensed the deadly threat, immediately rose upward, and soared past just inches above Fang Chen's head. Fang Chen was stunned for a moment, but how could he possibly let this Silverwing Thunderbird escape so easily? He thought of the Tianshan silk he had just obtained, and its legendary sharpness. A glint flashed in his eyes as he decisively took out the Tianshan silk, flicked it with his finger, and one end of the silk shot out, coiling tightly around the Silverwing Thunderbird's neck. Seeing that the silk in his hand was about to be pulled completely free, he decisively drove his purple sword into the ground, then tied the other end of the silk firmly to the sword hilt. In this scenario, either the silver-winged Thunderbird's neck would be snapped, or the hilt of the purple sword would be torn off. The outcome was obvious. The silver-winged Thunderbird was speeding into the clouds when the Tianshan Silk abruptly pulled taut. The razor-sharp silk effortlessly sliced into its neck. By the time the Thunderbird felt the searing pain and realized the danger, it was already too late. Its tremendous momentum carried its body forward, and the silk mercilessly severed its head from its body. Its massive head flew forward for a short distance, while its colossal body plummeted down like a collapsing mountain. With a deafening crash, the headless silver-winged Thunderbird slammed into the ground, showering the surrounding area in blood. Fang Chen was overjoyed. This silk was truly extraordinary. No wonder the Hehuan Sect Master regarded it as his life-bound magical artifact. He was absolutely elated. He quickly gathered the silk strand by strand, coiling it back into a loop. At this time the green-robed elder also arrived. At first, he had no idea why the silver-winged Thunderbird's head had suddenly separated from its body mid-flight. When he saw the silk thread in Fang Chen's hand, it dawned on him, and he said, "So it is you, little miss. I was wondering who had come to this place." When Fang Chen had shouted the warning earlier, they had been too far apart for the elder to distinguish if the voice belonged to a man or woman. Now, seeing the Tianshan silk that only the Hehuan Sect Master possessed, and knowing that they were right outside Hehuan City, he naturally assumed that Fang Chen was a female disciple of Hehuan Sect Master. Fang Chen froze for a moment, and was just about to open his mouth to explain, when a mournful, piercing cry suddenly rang out from the sky. He looked up to see yet another silver-winged Thunderbird, clutching a bird head in its beak, staring down at Fang Chen and the green-robed elder in a rage. When its eyes fell on Fang Chen, they blazed with fury, and it let out an especially shrill, hate-filled shriek. Fang Chen saw that this silver-winged Thunderbird was clearly missing one talon, and immediately recognized it as the one he had encountered on the snowy mountain. It turned out there was a pair of silver-winged Thunderbirds, and the one he had just killed was its mate. The green-robed elder snorted coldly. "So there is another one within Hehuan Sect's territory. No matter, I shall eliminate both of you vile, murderous beasts once and for all." He raised his hand and beckoned, a teal rainbow landing in his grasp. The cloth-evered silver-winged Thunderbird sensed danger, immediately soaring straight up to flee into the sea of clouds. The green-robed elder was about to give chase, but one glance at the silver-winged Thunderbird's corpse made him show a reluctant expression. Even for him, the corpse of such a silver-winged Thunderbird was of immense use. Otherwise, he would not have chased it all the way from 10,000 Swords Sect to Joyous Union Sect. However, when he remembered that the man before him was the Sect Master of Joyous Union Sect, he relaxed again and said, "Guard this corpse properly. I will decide how to dispose of it when I return." With those words, he chased after the cloth-evered silver-winged Thunderbird. Left behind, Fang Chen grumbled under his breath, "Do I know you that well? Why should I wait for you to come back? Though this silver-winged Thunderbird was chased all the way here by that green-robed elder, it was ultimately killed thanks to my Tianshan Silk Threads. The majority of the spoils rightfully belong to me anyway." Fang Chen was not polite in the slightest. He took out a pair of jade pliers and began forcefully plucking its feathers. 1, 2, 3, until not a single silvery white feather was left on the silver-winged Thunderbird's body. Only then did Fang Chen nod in satisfaction. This many bird feathers were more than enough for him to complete his cultivation of the first layer of his cultivation method. After that, Fang Chen circled around the completely bare silver-winged Thunderbird, which now looked like a giant roasted chicken. He was naturally tempted by the two sharp claws on the Thunderbird's feet, but these items were far too massive to carry conveniently. After thinking it over repeatedly, he swung his sword to slice open the silver-winged Thunderbird's abdomen, rummaging around inside until he pulled out a silvery, white core with arcs of lightning flickering across its surface. It was unmistakably a demonic beast core, far more valuable than the claws, and the perfect material for forging lightning, attribute magical artifacts. If he handed it to Ouyang Jun, it could at least be refined into a high-grade magical artifact of quality no inferior to Aishuang. This was an absolute treasure, so he tucked it into his bosom. Fang Chen hurried to slip away before the green-robed elder could return. Several hours later, the sky was fully bright. The green-robed elder returned empty-handed, looking slightly worn out, clearly having failed to catch his quarry. Fortunately, this trip had not been entirely for nothing. He had thought there would still be a full silver-wing Thunderbird corpse waiting for him.
but the green-robed elder froze immediately.
Staring at the giant bear, roasted chicken before his eyes, he half doubted he was seeing things. When he stepped closer to examine it, his face twisted with rage. "You insolent Joyous Union Sect master, you plucked every last valuable feather, not even leaving a single one behind." Then, when he noticed the Thunderbird's abdomen had been sliced open, his expression shifted drastically. "You took the core too. I spent days chasing this beast until it was exhausted, giving you the chance to kill it, yet you seized every valuable thing on its body for yourself, leaving me nothing but a pair of bird claws. What audacity!"
At that moment, a group of figures arrived at high speed. It was Yu Mingzhu leading a group of elders from Joyous Union Sect, rushing to the scene. There had been such a huge commotion here the previous night. How could Joyous Union Sect not have noticed? At the crack of dawn, Yu Mingzhu had led her people to come investigate. The moment she spotted the green-robed elder's figure from afar, Yu Mingzhu's face paled drastically. She hurried forward, bowing respectfully with cupped fists. "Senior Zhu, what brings you here?" The green-robed elder before her was the peerless powerhouse, known as the #1 sword sovereign of the 9 sects. He was the supreme elder of 10,000 Swords Sect, and also the former sect master of 10,000 Swords Sect, Liu Qingxian. His swordsmanship had reached the peak of perfection, and no one in the entire 9 sects domain dared to compete with him. In terms of strength, he ranked among the top 3 powerhouses in the entire 9 sects domain. As a mere sect master, Yu Mingzhu could only address him as a junior. To Yu Mingzhu's utter bewilderment, Liu Qingxian snorted coldly. "I don't deserve to be called your senior." Yu Mingzhu was completely confused. Had she offended Liu Qingxian somehow? She hurriedly said, "Senior Zhu, has this junior somehow slighted you?" Liu Qingxian laughed in rage. She actually dared to play dumb. He pointed at the silver-winged Thunderbird before him and said, "You have great merit for killing this bird. Even if you demanded the majority of the spoils, I would have nothing to say. But did you have to seize every single valuable part of this silver-winged Thunderbird for yourself?" Yu Mingzhu finally understood the situation. Liu Qingxian had been chasing the silver-winged Thunderbird, met someone who helped him kill it, but that person had no sense of honor, taking all the valuable parts of the silver-winged Thunderbird away, leaving only the pair of claws that were too inconvenient to carry. Liu Qingxian had mistakenly thought that person was her. She could not help but laugh and cry at the same time, saying, "Senior Zhu, you are mistaken. The person who assisted you in killing this bird is not this junior. I was searching the entire city for Fang Chen last night and never left the city at all, let alone attacked and killed the silver-winged Thunderbird." Still pretending, Liu Qingxian was truly enraged. A mere silver-winged Thunderbird, losing it was no big deal. He could afford to part with it. After all, he was not the one who landed the final killing blow, so he would accept that loss. But Yu Mingzhu playing dumb and feigning ignorance was treating him like a fool, was it not? "Besides you, who else could have killed this bird?" Seeing that Liu Qingxian was angry, Yu Mingzhu immediately adopted a solemn expression, saying, "Senior Zhu, you have truly wronged me. This silver-winged Thunderbird was definitely not killed by this. Junior, if you do not believe me, you can ask my several elders. I was with them the entire night." The several elders nodded in agreement, one after another. A few strange glints flickered in the elders' eyes. Why was Liu Qingxian so convinced that their sect master was the culprit? Liu Qingxian grew even angrier. These few elders were from Joyous Union Sect, so of course they would speak in favor of Joyous Union Sect. "How dare you, Yu Mingzhu!" Liu Qingxian raised his hand and struck with his sword, slicing the massive body of the silver-winged Thunderbird clean in two. He said furiously, "I don't want this silver-winged Thunderbird anymore, but I will definitely demand an explanation from your supreme elders for this account. I want to ask them what kind of sect master they have raised." He slung his sword over his back, flicked his sleeve, and departed. Left behind, Yu Mingzhu was seething with unspoken anger. Only after Liu Qingxian had completely departed did she explode in fury. Has that old fool been addled from endless sword cultivation to the point of losing his mind? For no reason at all, he slandered me for stealing the valuable materials from the silver-winged Thunderbird. I am a sect master. Would I ever stoop so low? She bit her silver teeth lightly, stamping her foot in rage. Who could bear being wronged out of thin air? Just then, an elder examining the silver-winged Thunderbird corpse's expression shifted abruptly. He asked with a strange look on his face, "Sect master, you truly did not kill this beast?" Yu Mingzhu glowered at him furiously. "Have you also gone seen, along with that old fool? Do you not know perfectly well whether I would commit such an act?" That elder stared intently at the cut on the silver-winged Thunderbird's neck, rubbed his nose, and said, "But no one besides you, sect master, could possibly have inflicted this wound." Hearing these words, several other elders crowded over to take a look.
The moment they laid eyes on the wound, their expressions all changed, casting doubtful glances toward Yu Mingju. Yu Mingju was stunned and walked to the corpse with a confused look on her face, gazing at the wound on its neck. Its neck had been severed, but the cut was extremely strange. It was not as smooth as one left by a sword or blade, and the flesh at the fracture showed clear signs of contracting inward. Rather than being chopped off, the neck looked as if it had been strangled and snapped while the beast was still alive. Yu Mingju's complexion also shifted slightly. These are strangulation marks. After a moment of thought, she flicked her sleeve, and heavenly mountain silk flew out from within, wrapping around the corpse's neck. When she tugged forcefully, another section of the neck snapped off, leaving a brand new fracture. The crowd stared at the two fracture points, collectively petrified. They were not just similar, they were completely identical. Yu Mingju was so shocked she could not speak. This silver-winged Thunderbird had actually been strangled to death with heavenly mountain silk. Across the entire 9 sect lands, there was only one stock of heavenly mountain silk, and it was exclusive to the Hehuan sect. What's more, this location was right outside Hehuan City, so it was no wonder Liu Qingxian had misjudged her. Even she herself began to doubt whether she had done this. But when she glanced at the completely bare silver-winged Thunderbird corpse, every single feather plucked clean, Yu Mingju quickly came to her senses. As a dignified sect master, she would never lower herself to strip a demonic beast this thoroughly. Someone must have obtained heavenly mountain silk from some unknown source and was impersonating her. Thinking of how the other party had reaped all the benefits while she had been thoroughly berated by Liu Qingxian, Yu Mingju was so furious her lungs felt ready to burst. She got none of the rewards, and all of the scolding. Which cursed, damned bastard did this? Do you call this something a human would do? She shrieked in a fit of rage. She had failed to capture Fang Chen, and now she was being framed. How could her luck be this terrible? Just then an elder rushed over in a flustered state, saying, "Reporting to Sect Master, a silver-winged Thunderbird is wreaking havoc in the eastern part of the city. Multiple people have already been killed." There was another one. Yu Mingju glanced at the silver-winged Thunderbird corpse with intact claws, and her face fell. "Oh no, there are 2 silver-winged Thunderbirds. This one was killed, so the other is taking revenge on us humans. Move out, head to the east of the city at once." Now turning to Fang Chen, he had long ago hired a horse-drawn carriage and was traveling eastward. At this moment he was cross-legged inside the carriage, with a pile of silver feathers crackling with lightning arcs piled before him. As he circulated his cultivation method, wisp after wisp of thunder force abruptly shot out from the feathers and burrowed into Fang Chen's body. The pain was so intense, his facial features twisted, and he sucked in sharp, hissing breaths through his teeth. This was a mandatory step for cultivating the 3-purity thunder shadow art. He had to draw thunder into his body and endure the unbearable agony. He circulated his cultivation method, guiding the lightning arcs that had entered his body through the meridians in his legs, letting the thunder power slowly fuse into the flesh, blood, and meridians of his legs. Only by doing this could his leg techniques carry innate lightning attacks when unleashed. 1 feather, 2 feathers, 3 feathers. Every time he absorbed the thunder power, it was sheer torture. The little Kilin sensed something and poked its head out. Gazing at Fang Chen's current state, it clicked its tongue in awe. When it comes to cultivation, he is even more ruthless than us demonic beasts. The cultivation practice of demonic beasts is usually accompanied by constant physical agony, but drawing lightning into one's body, an act bordering on torture, is something the vast majority of demonic beasts would never dare attempt. The entire process lasted a full hour. Fang Chen was already drenched in sweat, his face deathly pale, his entire body rigid from being seared by electric shocks. Faint wisps of lightning could be seen flickering around his legs, appearing and vanishing erratically. It is finally complete. I only wonder if the first layer of this leg technique will end up disappointing me. It demands both great mastery of movement speed and the feat of drawing thunder and lightning into the body. With such harsh cultivation requirements, if its final power proves mediocre, Fang Chen would be so frustrated he would spit blood. Screech! Suddenly, a sharp, piercing cry split the vast sky. The horses pulling the carriage seemed struck by terror, panicking and galloping wildly, nearly jolting the little Kilin right out of Fang Chen's arms. Fang Chen lifted the carriage curtain and looked up toward the sky in the direction of the sound, his scalp tingling instantly. A giant bird wreathed in crackling lightning was speeding straight toward their position. It was not hunting for prey, however, but fleeing for its life. Fang Chen fixed his gaze and peered closer, his mouth twitching violently. A masked woman clad in palace-style robes was speeding low to the ground in hot pursuit. Who else could it be but the Hehuan sect master?
Of all places to run into her, Fang Chen almost wished he could find a mirror to check if his seal hole was darkened, a sign that he was cursed with overwhelming bad luck.
He dared not let the Hehuan sect master discover his identity, so he immediately put on the mask of the No.
One shadow guard. At the same time, he hid his conspicuous gyukin, black sword, and purple sword under the carriage cushion, leaving only the newly acquired eishuang sheathed at his back. By the time he finished these preparations, the Hehuan sect master had already caught up.
Spotting the carriage ahead, she leaped onto its roof, used it as a springboard to soar into midair, and swung her silk thread in a rage, firing it at the silver-winged Thunderbird in the sky. She cried out sharply, "Vile beast, I've chased you for days, and you have evaded capture this entire time. Now you dare brazenly enter the outskirts of Hehuan City and slaughter innocents. You
are openly provoking this sect master."
Alas, the silver-winged Thunderbird had already experienced the power of the Tianshan Silk Thread, and was already on guard. It flapped its wings and soared higher into the sky, causing the attack to miss completely.
Even more cunning, it had predicted the Hehuan sectmaster's attack in advance.
Seizing the opportunity when the sectmaster was still suspended in midair with no leverage to use, it abruptly flapped its wings, sending a shower of feathers wreathed in crackling lightning arcs, speeding toward her like sharp arrows.
The Hehuan sectmaster's expression shifted slightly. She was not Liu Qingxian, who could easily deal with the explosive power of these feathers.
She hurriedly retracted her silk thread while activating an earth-tier cultivation method palm technique, exploding each feather one by one from a distance.
But there were far too many feathers to destroy all of them in such a short time, and her silk thread had not been fully retracted, rendering it useless for the moment.
Worse still, she was suspended in midair with no leverage, leaving her no chance to dodge. Her face paled drastically as she cried out, "I have been tricked."
Seeing this, the silver-winged Thunderbird bore what looked like a smug grin, and dove straight down to deliver a second strike to the flustered Hehuan sectmaster. But just as it began its dive, the Hehuan sectmaster's lips curled into a playful, mocking smile. "Foolish bird, I was merely toying with you."
She quickly pulled a talisman from her bosom and threw it into the air in front of her. A deafening boom rang out, and the entire shower of silver feathers was blown to charred scraps, detonating the lightning arcs within them ahead of time. The few stray feathers that escaped the explosion were knocked off course by the shockwave, failing to deal any meaningful damage to the Hehuan sectmaster. Seeing the Hehuan sectmaster so easily neutralize its attack, the silver-winged Thunderbird finally realized that the sectmaster had deliberately exposed a weakness earlier to lure it into a trap. It flapped its wings frantically, trying to halt its dive, but its massive body carried immense inertia. By the time it came to a complete stop, it was already very close to the ground. The Hehuan sectmaster did not hesitate for a moment. She flicked her sleeve, and the Tianshan Silk Thread shot out, wrapping tightly around the silver-winged Thunderbird's neck. With a single hard yank, this silver-winged Thunderbird would follow in the footsteps of its predecessor, ending up with its neck snapped clean off. The silver-winged Thunderbird panicked instantly, clearly aware of the grim fate that awaited it. But it quickly regained its wits. It knew that if it wanted to live, it could not give the Hehuan sectmaster time to retract the Tianshan Silk Thread. It had to fight to the death. Instead of fleeing further away, it flapped its wings and sped straight toward the Hehuan sectmaster, its sharp, cold claws slashing viciously at her. This turn of events caught the Hehuan sectmaster off guard. She had expected the silver-winged Thunderbird to flee into the distance, but the opposite had happened. This meant the Tianshan Silk Thread could not be pulled taut, making it impossible to snap its neck. "Vile beast, you are rather clever." The Hehuan sectmaster snorted coldly, "but you dare to fight this sectmaster head on. You are not worthy." The aura of the late Golden Core realm burst forth from her abruptly, as boundless surging spiritual power gathered in her palm. She raised her hand and struck out with a single palm. Crack! A rain of blood instantly poured from the heavens. The silver-winged Thunderbird's desperate final strike was nothing more than a laughingstock before a human cultivator at the late Golden Core realm. Even its prideful razor, sharp claws were of no use. Over half of its body was shattered into a fine mist of blood by the palm strike. Its upper torso crashed thunderously to the ground, its one, surrogate neck letting out a mournful cry before going limp. Its two wings flapped feebly once, then lost all strength. Inside the carriage, Fang Chen and the little Qilin saw everything clearly. The little Qilin shrank its neck in fright, trembling as it spoke in Fang Chen's mind. "What a terrifying woman." "Master, you..." You stay far away from her, I'm scared.
Fang Chen retorted irritably, who isn't scared? His expression was extremely grave. Though he had previously guessed that the head of the Hehuan sect had suppressed a great deal of her strength when she sparred with him, only when he saw it with his own eyes did he realize just how terrifying her true power was. This woman was absolutely not to be provoked. Thud, the Hehuan sect head landed on the roof of the carriage, letting out a long breath. You damned beast, it really took some effort to kill you.
She hopped over to the silver-winged Thunderbird, preparing to step forward and finish it off.
But Fang Chen's expression shifted slightly. He had seen first, and how cunning silver-winged Thunderbirds were, and feigning death was their specialty. Watch out, don't let your guard down, Fang Chen called out in warning.
The Hehuan sect head froze, a strange feeling of being chided by Fang Chen back at the cliff bottom rising in her heart.
In that split second of distraction, she lost her chance to dodge.
The silver-winged Thunderbird, whose eyes had been closed, suddenly lifted its neck. Its incredibly sharp beak struck like lightning towards the Hehuan sect head's skull.
Even for someone at the late Golden Core realm, she could not withstand the dying blow of a silver-winged Thunderbird.
By the time the Hehuan sect head reacted, her vision went dark. The massive beak was already right in front of her, blocking all her sight.
Her heart dropped and a single thought crossed her mind. It's over. A wisp of bone, chilling, astonishing cold energy, grazed past the top of her head.
Immediately after, her waist was grabbed by a powerful arm, yanking her away from her original position.
The world spun around her, and when her vision cleared, she was stunned.
The silver-winged Thunderbird was completely frozen, stuck in the pose of lifting its neck to attack, turned into a solid ice sculpture.
She turned her head to look, and saw a mysterious masked man in a wide robe, whose age was impossible to discern, holding a long sword that emitted terrifying cold energy.
He was the one who had acted to save her.
Yu Mingzhu was stunned inwardly. This man's speed was astonishingly fast. She had not even had time to react, yet he had arrived after her and struck first, wielding a high-grade magical artifact.
Across the lands of the 9 sects, only sect heads and a small number of powerful elders were equipped with high-grade magical artifacts, were they not?
Who was this mysterious man before her? Fang Chen released his hand from her soft waist, cupped his fists in a salute towards her, and silently walked back to the carriage, preparing to continue on their journey.
He had no desire to have the slightest bit of further interaction with the Hehuan sect head, lest his identity be exposed. Fang Chen had no confidence that he could escape from her hands a second time.
Wait, Yu Mingzhu called out to the mysterious man before her. He had saved her life, after all. If she did not express any gratitude at all, word of it spreading would make it seem like she, the head of the Hehuan sect, did not know how to repay kindness.
She spoke to ask, "May I dare ask which sect you hail from, fellow Taoist? For the grace of saving my life, this humble one shall reward you properly."
Fang Chen complained silently in his heart, "Reward me. I'd be thanking the heavens if you don't imprison me."
He waved his hand without turning his head, and said calmly, "It was a trivial effort, farewell."
Yu Mingzhu was surprised. Judging by his voice, he seemed very young. Were there such powerful young elders in the 9 sects?
She went through all the elders of the various sects in her mind, and found no record of this man.
Just as she was feeling curious, the elders all rushed over one after another.
Looking at the successfully slain silver-winged Thunderbird, relieved smiles appeared on all their faces. This damned beast was finally dead.
Elder Ling stared at the silver-winged Thunderbird's corpse with greedy eyes and asked, "Sect head, how do we handle this bird?"
"Every part of its body is a precious treasure,"
Yu Mingzhu said with a cold expression. "How else can we handle it? Of course we send it to the 10,000 Swords sect to apologize." What had happened earlier was indeed not her doing, but she simply could not explain the matter of the Tianshan silkworm silk clearly.
With the beast tied imminent, the relationship between the two sects cannot be compromised. Thus, they had no choice but to swallow this grievance silently. At this thought, fury welled up uncontrollably in her chest. "That damned wretch, do not let me catch you."
The elders' faces were filled with deep regret, yet they all knew this was the optimal course of action.
Elder Ling sighed, "We shall just present it to the 10,000 Swords sect as an apology gift. However, we shall not give it away for nothing. The 10,000 Swords sect's sword grove is soon to open. If we trade the corpse of the silver-winged Thunderbird for several entry permits to the
sword grove for our disciples below the 9th layer of the Foundation establishment realm, that should be acceptable, no."
A faint glint flashed across Yu Mingzhu's eyes. This was an excellent proposal. The Sword Grove is not only a sacred cultivation site for Foundation establishment realm cultivators, but also a place where one can comprehend high-grade sword arts.
Senior Zhu King, Yang even attained enlightenment of the sword control technique right within the sword grove.
Word has it that numerous disciples are already preparing for the trip.
Even the elite disciples from various sects who are slaying demonic beasts on the front lines of the Giant Sect are planning to spare time to go.
Fang Chen, who was just about to drive his carriage and leave, felt a stir in his heart. If that is the case, might Liu Qingxian head to the 10,000 Swords sect? After pondering for a long while, Fang Chen decided to first head to the 10,000 Swords sect to check. This would avoid the scenario where he travels a great distance to the Giant Sect, only to find that Liu Qingxian has gone to the 10,000 Swords sect instead. Furthermore, the 10,000 Swords sect is located in the northwest, directly north of the Joyful Union sect. The two territories border each other, so the distance between them is not great.
Fang Chen stepped down from his carriage and cupped his fists in salute. If you are heading to the 10,000 Swords sect, I can accompany you on the journey.
He calculated secretly, who knows what dangers lurk on the road to the 10,000 Swords sect. The Joyful Union sect is escorting their disciples to seize cultivation opportunities, so they will certainly have a powerhouse of elder rank leading the group, will they not?
Blending in with their party would undoubtedly be far safer for him.
Upon hearing this, the several elders all wore cold expressions. Their Joyful Union sect was escorting disciples to seize cultivation opportunities. How could an outsider just join as they pleased? To the elders' surprise, Yu Mingju agreed readily. Very well, you may come along. She was just wondering how to thank Fang Chen for his help, and now he had volunteered to travel with them. Bringing him along on the way would be a perfect way to repay him for the assistance he had rendered just moments ago.
Elder Ling questioned, Sectmaster, is this person trustworthy?
Yu Mingju pointed at the silver-winged Thunderbird, which remained frozen solid as an ice sculpture, and said, We owe our thanks to this fellow Taoist for his assistance, otherwise our sect would have landed in great trouble just now. On this journey, all of you should take good care of him. Fellow Taoist, the several elders were utterly shocked.
This form of address meant that the Sectmaster acknowledged Fang Chen possessed considerable strength, at the very least far exceeding the level of ordinary disciples.
Yet judging from his voice, he did not seem to be of advanced age.
Elder Ling nodded slightly, stroking her chin. I shall lead the group on this journey. We will first return to the Joyful Union sect to select the participating disciples before we depart.
After a moment of thought, Fang Chen followed them back to Joyful Union City. Meanwhile, at the foot of the Joyful Union Sect's mountain, the three young women, led by Yi Liangxing, slowly woke up. They had been traveling non-stop and were utterly exhausted, so they had fallen into a deep slumber. Why is there a jade bottle here and a medicinal pill inside? Yi Liangxing accidentally knocked over the jade bottle and exclaimed in surprise.
Choosing Meng wore a confused expression. I have one too. What kind of medicinal pill is this?
Qinkei opened her sleepy, bleary eyes, and when she looked closely, she cried out in shock, its spring return. She quickly covered her mouth, her voice trembling with excitement as she lowered her tone. This is the ancient healing medicinal pill, the spring return pill, that appeared at the roaming auction,
hosted by the Heavenly Secrets Pavilion in Qingyan City. I heard from senior brother Ling Gihai that this pill was sold for a high price of 200,000 spirit stones each.
Both Yi Liangxing and Chu Xing Meng wore shocked expressions. They had heard of the famed spring return pill, but this was the first time they had seen one in person.
What left them even more bewildered was why each of the three of them had one sitting beside them when they woke up.
At that moment, Chu Xingmeng suddenly cried out in alarm, Oh no, the claws of the silver-winged Thunderbird are gone. That was senior brother Fang's trophy.
All three young women panicked immediately.
But the next moment, they realized the truth. The carriage was eerily quiet.
Yi Liangxing said with a complicated expression, Junior brother Fang came last night. He took the claws and left each of us a spring return pill.
The excitement on Qinkei's face faded at a visible rate. She bit her lips slightly and asked in a trembling voice, Junior brother Fang left without even saying goodbye.
It was only then that Chu Xingmeng realized what had happened. Fang Chen had bid them farewell silently, and the pills were his parting gifts for them.
A stinging sensation rose in her nose, and tears silently rolled down her cheeks.
The time she had spent with Fang Chen was actually less than half a month, yet the events they had experienced together were more thrilling than all that she had lived through in 18 years.
Fang Chen's abrupt departure left her with an overwhelming sense of loss.
Yi Liangxing also felt a touch of melancholy. She patted the shoulders of the two young women and sighed. Junior brother Fang has never been a fickle person. There must be an unspeakable reason for him to leave without bidding farewell. If fate allows, we shall meet him again someday.
Pull yourselves together. The mission has already concluded, and we should all return to our respective sects to await further orders.
Qin Kai nodded, a bitter ache lingering in her heart. She was somewhat reluctant to part with the group before her. The journey had been filled with joy and laughter, far happier than her days in the 10,000 Swords sect. She looked worriedly at Chu Xing Meng and asked junior sister Chu, "The journey to the Supreme Sect is long and arduous.
Will you be all right returning alone?"
Yi Liangxing said, "Do not worry. I will personally escort her back to the Supreme Sect. It is you who must take care. The western regions are in turmoil, and the northwest will likely be no better."
Qin Kai nodded. "I will be careful."
The three women bid each other farewell before the carriage. They eventually gathered their belongings and departed, one group heading west and the other east, each going their own way.
Little did they know that not long after they had left, Fang Chen's carriage swayed unsteadily back to the foot of the mountain.
Elder Ling said, "Fellow Taoist, wait here for a moment. I will return once I have finished gathering the disciples."
Fang Chen nodded slightly, watching the Hehuan sect master leave first.
His eyes flickered, and he said, "By the way, Elder Ling, I wonder if your sect has any missions related to the 10,000 Swords sect.
Since we are heading to the 10,000 Swords sect anyway, we might as well earn some mission merit points along the way instead of going empty-handed."
Elder Ling wore a look of astonishment and said, "Fellow Taoist, missions are prepared for disciples of various sects."
"We have not received any missions from the Heavenly Secrets Pavilion."
Fang Chen cupped his hands in salute and said, "To tell you the truth, this junior is also a disciple."
Elder Ling looked as if he had seen a ghost. Why had the sect master addressed Fang Chen as fellow Taoist? But when he thought of the sect master's childish temperament, it made sense. The absurd things the sect master had done over the years were too many to count on 10 fingers. Had she not recently tried to forcibly take a disciple from the Azure Cloud sect? When she failed, she issued a bounty on him.
Only the sect master would do such a thing. In comparison, addressing a disciple as fellow Taoist was nothing at all.
"Fine, I will arrange a mission for you." Elder Ling naturally understood that Fang Chen wanted to earn merit points without effort, but since he had promised the sect master to take good care of
him, helping him secure a mission was no trouble at all.
She left with her hands behind her back and returned a short while later with 5 disciples. Fang Chen only knew one of them, Jai Ryu. The other 4 were all at the 8th layer of the Foundation Establishment Realm, and had hopes of breaking through to the 9th layer of the Foundation Establishment Realm with the help of the Sword Forest. Only Jai Ryu, who was at the 5th layer of the Foundation Establishment Realm, was an exception. The other 4 disciples did not dare to show the slightest contempt for her. On the contrary, they kept addressing her warmly as Sister Ryu, acting extremely friendly.
Jai Ryu was flattered.
She knew perfectly well the reason behind this treatment. It was precisely because she had some acquaintance with Fang Chen that the sect master had treated her exceptionally well, granting her this rare quota. Even the senior brothers and sisters, who had once looked down on her from high above, now treated her with great courtesy. She boarded the carriage first and was surprised to find a masked man sitting cross-legged inside the compartment. She asked in shock, "Who are you?"
Elder Ling walked over and introduced, "This is a disciple from an external sect who is traveling with us. He is someone the sect master values greatly, so you must all treat him with respect."
Jai Ryu and the other disciples were secretly astonished. What kind of external sect disciple was qualified to be personally escorted by the great elder?
Even if Elder Ling had not reminded them to be polite, they would have treated him with the utmost respect.
Once everyone was seated, Elder Ling threw each of them a mission jade slip, including Fang Chen.
The group was overjoyed. This mission required them to take no risks whatsoever. It was essentially a free handout.
"Do not spread this around. Keep it to yourselves, so that the other disciples in the sect do not complain," she reminded the group.
She then threw the registration ledger to them and said, "Register yourselves.
We are all on the same side, so there is no need for me to verify each of your identity jade plaques and register your information one by one."
As for Fang Chen, he is someone the sect master has personally ordered to be taken care of, so his identity is even more beyond question.
The group was secretly delighted and registered their information on their own. When it was Fang Chen's turn, he thought for a moment, and with a trace of unease, he registered his real information.
When the Heavenly Secrets Pavilion reviews missions, they cross-reference the registration ledgers for mission collection and mission completion.
If Fang Chen used a fake name, the 2 records would not match, and the mission would be deemed invalid.
Therefore, he could only use his real name. After signing, he forced himself to remain calm and handed the ledger to Elder Ling. Fortunately, Elder Ling did not look at it closely and casually handed it to a disciple beside him, saying, "Send this to the Sectmaster Hall, then inform the Sectmaster that we have departed." Understood, the disciple clutched the registration ledger and departed in haste. Moments later, he arrived at the sect leader's hall. Inside the hall, head disciple Xiliushu knelt on both knees, speaking respectfully. "Sect leader, please grant me one more chance to atone for my crimes through meritorious service. Allow me to undertake a Tier 1 mission. Ever since he botched a previous Tier 1 mission, he had been shunned by the entire sect." Yu Mingju gazed at the head disciple before her and could not help but compare him to Fang Chen. The more she compared, the more displeased she grew. She casually grabbed a jade slip, recording a Tier 1 mission, and tossed it over. "Take it. Stop loitering before my eyes." Xiliushu was wild with joy and hastily picked up the jade slip. Just as he did so, the earlier disciple arrived with the registration ledger. Xiliushu took it, unfurling the ledger to enter his own information himself. But when he saw the information of the last person registered in the ledger, he froze instantly. Fang Chen. He doubted his own eyes. Was Fang Chen not the person the sect leader had issued a capture warrant for? Disciples were still searching every corner of the city for him even now. How could he possibly have accepted a mission from the Giant Sect? He stared intently, his face twisting with shock. The entry was written clearly and unambiguously, Giant Sect disciple, Fang Chen. Who else could this be but Fang Chen? Yu Mingju's ears twitched. She had developed a near-involuntary reaction to the name Fang Chen by now. The moment she heard it, she frowned and asked, "Why are you mentioning him? Have you obtained intelligence on his whereabouts?" She felt utterly helpless when it came to Fang Chen. She had mobilized the entire sect to hunt him down for a full night, yet they had not caught so much as a glimpse of him. They had practically dug the entire city 3 feet deep, and she had no idea where that bastard was hiding. Xiliushu was too stunned to speak, lifting the registration ledger and pointing at the entry repeatedly. Yu Mingju's frown deepened. "Have you lost your tongue? This sect leader is asking you a question. What are you pointing at the ledger for?" Xiliushu jolted in terror, finally managing to force words out, stammering, "Fang Chen, he's on the ledger." Yu Mingju flatly refused to believe that Fang Chen's name could be on the registration ledger. She snatched it over, snapping, "If your eyes are useless, donate them to someone who needs them. How could Fang Chen's information possibly appear here? Every single identity entry in this ledger requires verification." As she spoke, her eyes gradually widened. The 7 characters Giant Sect disciple Fang Chen were clearly reflected in her pupils. She could barely believe her own eyes. Fang Chen had actually accepted a mission from the Giant Sect. How was this possible? She had searched everywhere for him without a trace, yet he had used his incredible abilities to sneak into the Giant Sect and take a mission. How had he pulled this off? Yu Mingju snapped back to her senses, pointing at Fang Chen's name as she roared, "Preposterous! Are all the people in your mission hall blind? Fang Chen came to accept a mission, and none of you recognized him. You even let him successfully claim it. If this gets out, we will become the laughingstock of the entire cultivation world." The disciple who had delivered the registration ledger wore a bitter expression as he spoke. "Sect leader, those 6 missions listed above were all arranged by Elder Ling. I had no idea she arranged them for Fang Chen." Elder Ling, how could she possibly arrange missions for Fang Chen? If she had laid eyes on Fang Chen, she would have certainly captured him and brought him to her for punishment. Yu Mingju suddenly realized something, her finger trembling as she pointed at Fang Chen's signature. Was this name signed by the person in the carriage? The disciple nodded. "Yes, sect leader." Once the registration ledger was passed around the carriage and brought back, 6 names had been added to it. Yu Mingju staggered back several steps in rapid succession, her strength failing her as she leaned against the table, the world spinning before her eyes. That masked man, the person she had addressed as fellow Taoist, was none other than Fang Chen. She had thought she was blessed with incredible luck when she encountered his carriage, never realizing it was Fang Chen inside. Not only that, she had ordered the Great Elder to escort him away, letting him swagger off right under her nose, holding the mission she had issued. Yu Mingju tasted the metallic tang of blood at the back of her throat, so furious she nearly coughed up blood. She stretched out a trembling finger, roaring, chase him now, even if you have to hunt him to the ends of the earth, bring him back to me." The disciple trembled violently in fear, replying, "Sect leader, the Great Elder has already left Heiyuan City by now. For safety purposes, their route is kept strictly confidential. I'm afraid we won't be able to catch up to them." Upon hearing this, Yu Mingju was so enraged, she flipped the entire table, flying on the spot, her chest heaving with rage. She shrieked in utter fury, Fang Chen, you wait for me. No one has ever dared to infuriate me to this extent, never.
Elsewhere, Fang Chen suddenly felt a chill run down his spine for no apparent reason, and could not help but hunch his shoulders. Strange is someone talking about me, he muttered to himself, only relaxing once he confirmed they had fully left Hehuan City behind. Seeing that Jai Ryu and the others were meditating with their eyes closed, a thought struck him.
He reached into his robes, waved at the little Kilin, and said, "Bring out that glowing green object. There were too many prying eyes earlier, so it was never convenient to examine it. Now we can finally find out what that green spiritual light we obtained from the nascent soul's cave abode actually is."
A cool sensation spread across his palm, and Fang Chen felt something appear in his hand. He lifted it to look and was taken aback. It was an emerald ring, glowing with a faint, dark green light.
2 tiny characters were engraved on the base of the ring. Muttering to himself, Fang Chen slipped it onto his finger and tried to infuse it with spiritual power.
Apart from growing a shade darker green, the ring showed no other reaction.
How odd! When you infuse spiritual power into ordinary magical artifacts, don't they always reveal their special properties?
Could this just be a regular ring? But then he remembered that miser who had swallowed the ring to hide it right before he died, which meant this was undoubtedly the most precious treasure in that nascent soul's cave abode.
With that thought, he pulled back the carriage curtain, only to find endless open plains stretching out on all sides.
There was not even an unlucky tree he could test the ring on.
Left with no other choice, he looked up at the sky at the drifting clouds, stretched out the finger wearing the ring, and gave a light tap in their direction.
The ring emitted no special fluctuation, which left Fang Chen somewhat dejected. No way did I outwit and battle you Mingzhu just to get a useless decorative trinket.
Just then an astonishing scene unfolded. The layers of clouds in the sky seemed to be hit by an unimaginable gravitational force, crashing down from the heavens with a thunderous boom. They slammed into the ground, turning into dense water vapor that spread out in all directions.
Witnessing this scene, Elder Ling, who was driving the carriage, had her pupils constrict sharply. She stood up immediately, calling out in a loud, clear voice, "What esteemed expert is present here? Please show yourself. To pull clouds from the sky down to the earth. What kind of divine ability
is this? I have never heard of such a power in my life."
The people inside the carriage were also jolted awake, staring at the bizarre sight before them with stunned expressions. Clouds could actually be pulled down from the sky. What kind of godlike power was this?
Fang Chen froze for a moment. Had he caused this with that single tap just now?
It seemed the gravitational force around that cloud had become so immense that the cloud could not bear the weight and crashed to the ground. He looked at the emerald ring, then thought of the 2 characters boundless engraved on it, and began to faintly understand the ring's function. It could alter gravity. He was secretly overjoyed. This was a perfect, unexpected killing move. When facing a powerful enemy he could not defeat, he could suddenly subject them to immense gravitational force. At the very least, it would restrict their movements. At worst, it could crush them to death on the spot. As expected, nothing left by a nascent soul powerhouse was ever ordinary. However, Fang Chen soon noticed that the previously bright emerald ring had dimmed significantly. Clearly, the ring required a massive amount of stored spiritual power to activate once, and could not be used indefinitely. But even so, this was already an incredible, pleasant surprise for Fang Chen. He feigned complete ignorance, leaping out of the carriage and gazing around with obvious surprise. What has happened here?
Elder Ling spoke in a heavy, solemn tone. A powerful cultivator is making a move. Even a mid-stage golden core realm warrior may not be able to withstand that earlier strike. Fang Chen stroked his chin, having gained a preliminary understanding of the destructive might of gravity attacks, and said, "Then we should leave at once, lest we disturb that mighty expert." Elder Ling, however, frowned slightly. "I fear it will not be easy for us to leave."
She gazed toward the horizon, where a towering plume of dust, like a golden dragon soaring into the firmament, came into view. Fang Chen focused his gaze and spotted a group of uniformly dressed disciples, all embroidered with a thunder pattern emblem on their chests. Could this be the true Thunder Sect, the most mysterious of the 9 sects? But very quickly, Fang Chen's pupils constricted sharply, for among these disciples, he caught sight of a woman far too familiar to him.
Clad in Azure Cloud sect attire, she stood out starkly among the true Thunder Sect disciples. Her elegant cyan long dress perfectly outlined her alluring curves. Her exquisite bare face was stunning even without any adornment, making her stand head and shoulders above the surrounding
Thunder Sect disciples. Several disciples of the Joyous Union sect also could not help but notice her.
Jai Yu's eyes lit up, and she praised sincerely, "What a beautiful junior sister. Even in our Joyous Union sect, she would rank among the top great beauties." The Joyous Union sect was famous for its handsome male and beautiful female disciples, yet the woman before them still possessed a breathtaking beauty that far outstripped her peers. Jai Yu stared at her repeatedly, growing fonder the more she looked. Suddenly her eyes flickered with an idea, and she turned to Fang Chen, saying, "Senior brother, do you fancy this junior sister? If you do, how about I help play matchmaker for you too?" Fang Chen had not spoken to them the entire journey, so Jai Yu had no opportunity to befriend him, and this seemed like an excellent chance. Fang Chen could not help a bitter laugh, his tone laced with complexity. "No need. She and I share no destined bond." Jai Yu was an astute and shrewd person, immediately picking up on something amiss and probed, "Senior brother knows her." Fang Chen's gaze also turned complicated. "We know each other far more than just casually. If she had not once said, 'I would rather die than marry Fang Chen,' the two of us would have walked an entirely different long path of destiny." They really did know each other. Jai Yu was just about to inquire further when Elder Ling spoke up at that moment. "So it is fellow Taoists of the True Thunder Sect." She breathed a small sigh of relief. At the front of the True Thunder Sect group, seated on the leading horse, was a bald, middle-aged man with a black lightning mark on his forehead. His skin was deathly pale. He had not a single hair on his entire body, not even eyebrows, looking rather odd. Yet the aura he exuded filled all who sensed it with deep awe. "So it is Elder Ling," he chuckled. "I thought a precious heavy treasure had manifested in this place." Though he wore a smile, his peripheral gaze was fixed on the puddles of water all over the ground, filled with suspicion. They had been quite far away, yet had clearly seen the miraculous sight of clouds falling from the sky. They had not expected to find the Joyous Union Sects group when they rushed over. Elder Ling let out an amused laugh. "If there were a precious treasure here, would this humble one wait here for you to arrive? I would have long fled far away with the treasure in hand." The bald, middle-aged man thought that made sense, and asked, "Then what happened here just now? Do you have any idea, Elder Ling?" Elder Ling smiled bitterly and shook her head. "This humble one also wishes to know. The matter of clouds falling from the sky is unheard of. If Elder Jin has any clues, please do inform me." Truthfully, Fang Chen listened to the two of them beating around the bush and secretly laughed. Let alone that neither of them had any clues. Even if they did, they would absolutely never tell each other. Elder Jin also knew he had asked a redundant question. Unwilling to give up, he rode his horse back and forth, searching among the puddles of water, until the water had all evaporated, before he returned with a sigh, saying, "It seems it truly was just a strange natural phenomenon of heaven and earth." Glancing at Elder Ling, then at the 6 disciples inside the carriage, Elder Jin's eyes flickered with a scheme as he smiled. "Is Elder Ling bringing your disciples to the 10,000 Swords Sect? Participate in the Sword Forest Enlightenment. So am I. How about we travel together?" Elder Ling cupped her hands in salute. "I appreciate your kind offer, Elder Jin, but my disciples are all delicate and cannot travel at a fast pace. You may go on ahead, lest we slow you down." The several Joyous Union Sect disciples exchanged glances, all wearing confused expressions, not understanding why Elder Ling had refused. The westward road ahead was not very safe right now. Combining the two sects teams would undoubtedly make the journey much safer. Jai Yu, however, knew the reason behind this and said in a low voice, "Don't misunderstand Elder Ling. She is protecting us. That bald man is no good person." Fang Chen could not help but glance at Liu Ruan, a tinge of worry rising in his heart. Jai Yu's voice dropped even lower. "He is Jin Yunli, the Grand Elder of the True Thunder Sect. There were 2 occasions where he carried out missions with powerful cultivators from other sects. And all the others were completely wiped out, with only him returning alive. Since there were no survivors to testify, the matters were left unsettled." Everyone could not help but feel a chill run down their spines, only now understanding why Elder Ling had refused his invitation without hesitation. This Jin Yunli had a terrible track record. One time of the entire group being wiped out with only him surviving could be called extreme luck, but for it to happen twice, how could that still be luck? Fang Chen grew even more worried. This man was so vile. Was Liu Ruan really safe traveling in his group? He had promised Liu Qingxian that if he encountered Liu Ruan outside the sect, he would take good care of her. As if sensing Fang Chen's gaze, Liu Ruan looked over. The moment she saw the mask on Fang Chen's face, her eyes could not look away. She rubbed her eyes, doubting if she was dreaming, and murmured, "Shadow Guard number 1. No one knew how much she missed Shadow Guard number 1. The man who had taught her movement techniques on the ascending dragon path, who had saved her life from the hands of the altar master of the Blood Bat Palace's branch, the man she had looked up to and fallen for, had actually appeared here before her. Fang Chen was slightly surprised. He had thought everyone had forgotten this Shadow Guard #1 mask, yet after so long, Liu Ruan still remembered it.
Since that was the case, he simply leaped down from the carriage openly and smiled. "Long time no see, Liu Ruan." Hearing that familiar voice, confirming this was indeed Shadow Guard #1, mist quickly gathered in Liu Ruan's eyes, turning into tears of grievance that rolled down her cheeks.
She dismounted from her horse in one fluid motion. Liu Ruan lifted her skirts and threw herself into Fang Chen's arms. Fang Chen was stunned. "What are you?" Before he could finish his question, Liu Ruan was already sobbing bitterly, her tears falling like rain upon pear blossoms. "Where have you been? I returned to Gaju City, but I could not find you, no matter how hard I searched." Only she knew how many times she had missed Shadow Guard 1 ever since she joined Giant Sect, especially every time she suffered grievances. She would recall how kindly Shadow Guard 1 had treated her. This time, after being outshone by Liu Ruxu and Chen Signing, she returned to Gaju City full of sorrow, hoping to see Shadow Guard 1 one more time before gathering her resolve and setting out on her cultivation journey again.
But the dragon ascension path had long been sealed shut. The familiar stone steps had been covered with a layer of dust at some unknown point, and a few small spiders quietly spun their webs in the wall corner. On the street where he had saved her back then, the old woman selling flatbread was still there, and the children were still chattering noisily around the old man who sculpted sugar figures. Everything felt as if it had happened only yesterday, save for the fact that Shadow Guard 1 was nowhere to be found. It turned out that all things remained the same, yet the people of old were gone. Though the heavens and earth were boundless, there was no longer a path for her to return home, so she had journeyed far into the outer heavens. Listening to Liu Ruan's sobs growing louder in his arms, Fang Chen was at a complete loss for a moment. In the 10 years he had stayed at the Liu Manor, this was the first time he had ever seen Liu Ruan cry so heartbrokenly. After hesitating for a short while, he gently patted her back and said, "Stop crying. Your teacher, Elder Lai, is very worried about you." At these words, Liu Ruan's tears finally slowed slightly. She looked ashamed and said, "I acted willfully and ran away, making things difficult for my teacher. Once I return from 10,000 Swords Sect, I will go back to Giant Sect." Fang Chen felt relieved. He glanced at the disciples of True Thunder Sect and said, "Come with me from now on, so we can look out for each other."
Liu Ruan broke into a smile through her tears, wiped her eyes and nodded repeatedly. This is exactly what I have been hoping for." "Junior Sister Liu, you are just leaving like that." A handsome, imposing disciple standing beside Jin Yunli raised his sword, like eyebrows slightly. "Don't forget, we saved your life, the debt of saving one's life." Fang Chen looked at Liu Ruan in confusion.
"You encountered danger earlier."
Liu Ruan nodded, a look of fear still lingering on her face, and said, "A few days ago, when I was crossing the raging New River within the territory of Spirit Beast Sect, I ran into a ferocious, aquatic demonic beast that almost capsized my boat. It just so happened that Elder Jin was leading disciples of True Thunder Sect nearby, and they repelled the demonic beast with heavenly thunder, so I managed to escape with my life." The aquatic demonic beast in the raging New River is a crimson-scaled fiend flood dragon, right? This beast comes and goes without a trace, and it is extremely difficult to injure it effectively in water, except for thunder. When a wave of thunder strikes the water, all crimson-scaled fiend flood dragons within 100 jang radius will be electrocuted and wounded. If Fang Chen had successfully cultivated the *3 Pure Thunder Shadows cultivation method earlier, he would not have had to go through so much trouble to lure and kill the crimson-scaled fiend flood dragon before. He cupped his hands in salute to Jin Yunli. "Thank you for your life, saving grace, Elder Jin."
Jin Yunli smiled faintly, his smile not reaching his eyes. "What need is there for you to thank me? If anyone is to thank me, it is that young lady." Liu Ruan did not flinch.
She cupped her hands in salute and said, "Thank you for saving me, Elder Jin, and for taking care of me all this way. I, a junior, will definitely repay this kindness with my life. If there is ever anything you need my help with in the future, I will go through fire and boiling water, and will not hesitate for a moment. I will not disturb you any further, senior."
Her words were sincere and appropriate, leaving no room for anyone to raise objections.
Jin Yunli narrowed his eyes slightly. He was never a person who meddled in other people's business.
The reason he had spared no expense to expend his thunder power to save this girl was because his disciple Lu Shi had taken a fancy to her beauty.
Now that she had seen her old lover and thrown herself into his arms intending to leave just like that, wouldn't they be made fools of?
However, as a Grand Elder, he could not be bothered to argue with junior disciples, so he could only let Lu Shi handle this himself. That handsome, tall, and straight young man was none other than Lu Shi. He frowned slightly and said, "There is no need to repay us with your life. What use would we have for your life?" Liu Ruan knew she was in the wrong, so she did not take offense at his attitude. She said sincerely, "This junior sister has shallow cultivation foundations, no wealth and no strength. Aside from offering my life, I do not know how else to repay this kindness, or if senior brother Liu has any tasks that you need junior sister's help with, junior sister will do her utmost to complete them." Fang Chen stood shoulder to shoulder with Liu Ruan, without showing any sign of his inner thoughts. He could sense that the other party harbored ill intentions, and if that was the case, he would not stand by and do nothing. Lu Shi, who had noticed Fang Chen's movement, felt even more displeased. He said, "The way junior sister speaks makes it sound as if our true Thunder Sect is forcing you." He had almost blurted out that she should repay him with her hand in marriage, but Elder Ling was watching from the side. Let alone whether she would stop him. If word of this got out, their reputation would be greatly damaged. Therefore, Lu Shi's eyes darted around, and he took a step back, saying, "We saved you only because the 9 sects share the same roots and stand together. We have no intention of asking you for any repayment. However, when we were saving you, my teacher was hunting a crimson-scaled fiend flood dragon. My teacher needs its teeth to refine a magical artifact. In order to save you, my teacher had to abandon the crimson-scaled fiend flood dragon that was already within his grasp. If you repay us with a crimson-scaled fiend flood dragon, we will consider the debt settled." At these words, Liu Ruan looked troubled. She had personally experienced how dangerous the crimson-scaled fiend flood dragon was, and had almost ended up as its meal. How could she possibly have the ability to hunt one? What's more, that demonic beast lived within the territory of Spirit Beast Sect, and she had no way of returning to Spirit Beast Sect for the time being. Lu Shi's eyes glinted slightly as he said, "Our request is not unreasonable, is it?" "It is not unreasonable." Liu Ruan waved her hand. It was completely reasonable for them to demand compensation for their losses, but she simply could not fulfill this request right now. Lu Shi's tone immediately softened, and he said, "Of course, I know that asking junior sister to kill a crimson-scaled fiend flood dragon is putting you in a difficult spot. How about this? You come with us, and when we cross the raging New River again, you assist us in slaying one, and that will count as your compensation. What do you think?" Liu Ruan let out a soft sigh of relief, but Lu Shi then said, "However, this means that junior sister Liu will have to endure a little inconvenience and stay with us for the time being. Once we have hunted the crimson-scaled fiend flood dragon, I will personally escort you back to Qingxian's sect." Fang Chen sneered. After all that roundabout talking, this was their real goal, to find an excuse to keep Liu Ruan behind. As for what he would do after she stayed, it was not hard to imagine at all. Liu Ruan's face stiffened slightly, and she looked hesitant. She was no fool. She could tell what Lu Shi's faint, burning gaze when he looked at her meant, and she understood even better what awaited her if she stayed this time. Elder Ling had been watching coldly from the sidelines for a while. As someone who had seen much of the world, she could see exactly what Lu Shi was plotting. If it were anyone else, she might not have bothered to meddle, but this Liu Ruan was Fang Chen's old lover.